Hey, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Comics Cast Let It Out for this Sunday, October 4th, 2020. Good to be here today with my special guests. We have the Count of Monte Cristo, who's also known as Aaron, and Joe from Catalyst Comics. Say hello, guys.
Hey, y'all.
What's up?
Yeah, it is Sunday. I think even though it's 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, I almost feel like whenever I do these shows that I feel like I'm a little, I don't know, it's not a hangover, obviously. It's just something that I feel like I'm a little discombobulated, but that's part of the fun because I'm fanboying over you guys. I think that Catalyst Comics was something that came under the radar to me. And the more I got to learn about Catalyst Comics and their current crowdfunding campaign, which we're going to go into a little later on, I got to meet two great guys and see some phenomenal artwork, a hint of some great storytelling. And I think that, that being said, let me pull up their banner here. And this is a way that you can get in contact with Catalyst Comics and read about what we're going to be talking today. So again, their crowdfunding campaign, we're going to talk about that a little later on, but it's for a comic called Tilt, which is in their third issue. You can actually catch up and get issue 1 and 2, but the number 3 issue is currently crowdfunding. And from what I understand, it's like it's over, I want to say like over 70% there. Is that correct?
Yeah, over 70%.
Over 70%. So hopefully our guests, if you're watching this, it will push your campaign over the top because we really want to showcase them and get the word out about how phenomenal this writer-artist team is. And that's what I want to say too, is that the Count of Monte Cristo, Aaron, is the writer and he's the co-owner of Catalyst Comics. Is that correct?
That's right.
And Joe is the phenomenal talent behind Tilt. And we're going to be sharing their stories and their artwork as we go along. So that being said, let me pull up some artwork from Joe to talk a little bit about his fan art, but or before we get into the Catalyst side of it. But I want to give the mic over to Aaron and let him tell us a little bit about Catalyst, or actually himself. And then, of course, when we right into where you met Joe and the whole story of how Tilt came to be under the Catalyst banner. So take it away.
Yeah. So my name's Aaron, and I was born in Florida and grew up in North Carolina. And I was one of those kids that kind of grew up reading comic books. I started writing some short stories when I was in about middle school, and then through high school. And then once I went to college, I kind of just put it to the side to chase after other things like music. So I do a lot of that and play guitar and sing. And then when I got a little bit older, I want to say it was about 3 years ago now that I started getting back into that love of writing. And I started working on a script, which was Paradigm, which was our first book at Catalyst. And right along with that, I started developing Tilt. And it was just another way for me to explore writing. And it's always been a passion of mine, creative writing. And so I do some short story work. And then once I started doing Tilt, we got to the point where we funded well enough with Paradigm that it was time to find an artist. And that's how I ended up meeting Joe. So I've been working in comic books about 3 years now, but Catalyst only started publishing comics in March of last year.
Awesome.
That's me, though.
Okay. And I noticed, I mentioned that you were a co-founder of Catalyst. You have a partner, and I believe his name is Matthew. And,
that's right.
He's also an artist too. So definitely check out Catalyst Comics. You can see more of their story in terms of just how they came to be and Aaron's role in that. But let's get into learning a little bit more about Joe. Joe is he's currently, I think we talked yesterday. You're a New York native who found himself in West Virginia, correct? I'm from Southwest.
Yeah, I'm a transplanted New Yorker.
Right,
is what I like to call myself. Started in New York City, but ended up in West Virginia.
Okay. Yeah, so because that's where the exciting stuff is. It's all in West Virginia, correct?
Yeah, of course. All those trees.
And mountains, trees and mountains, right? I guess it depends on what part of West Virginia.
I traded the skyscrapers and East River for trees and mountains.
Well, you know what? I think that bringing the New York state of mind to West Virginia That's something that I think Joe will bring in spades there. So you're gonna carve into a. There's gonna be a whole new There's gonna be a new New York there in West Virginia. But yeah, tell us a little bit about.
Yeah, my neighbors might disagree, but absolutely, that's what I brought with me.
Hey, well, you know what? I think that all my friends that I've made in New York, they definitely left a really good impression, and I think that wherever you are in West Virginia, they're going to be better for it because they got Joe there. So you want to tell us a little bit about yourself as well. Let me pull up some artwork that you had done, and let me share that. And here we go.
Okay,
so tell us a little bit about yourself.
All right. Well, my name's Joe DeSantos. I go by a couple of different monikers, Joey Des being one of them. What we're looking at on the screen right here is a cover that I did for WTF Zombies. I won't say the full name on your show. This was for Super Serious Con, and Adrian Grayson was actually how Aaron and I met. We met each other after I did this book for Supercilious. I did the lines and the ink, and Chris Qua did the colors on this.
Yeah, this looks phenomenal. I love the one thing that I picked up about looking at your artwork is it's so clean. The lines are so crisp.
Yeah.
And, we're gonna talk about that.
One of the things I'm known for is clean lines.
Yeah, so we'll talk about the magic behind those lines. But go ahead and tell us a little bit more about this.
About this is a parody of a zombie apocalypse. It starts off as kind of a how-to guide. Adrian's comedy really shines a light, and there's a few celebrity cameos throughout the book. Do you get them as hunters? Do you get to see them as find out? I enjoy doing it because I don't get to do a lot of celebrity shows in comic books. I did another title for her previously, which was Escape from Dino Isle, also in black and white interiors, but Chris Qua colored the cover for us. I've been in indie comics for over a decade now, and I've worked for a lot of different companies, some of which you're going to see right here.
Right.
This piece that you're looking at, this is a character called Valiant for Andrew Rowland, who is a client of mine. I've done covers for him, and I've done a mess of pinups for him. This one included. This is Valiant versus his arch nemesis.
Yeah, this is a difficult perspective to pull off because it's not like I guess he could be technically flying down, but it's almost like if you were witnessing it as mere mortals below them as they're ready to, throw down. I like that. I'm a fan of the worm's eye point of view looking up because it actually makes.
I like extreme perspectives too, but considering they're in space, this is not a worm's eye nor a bird's eye nor anything view.
You're right.
Looking at the space eye. It's space eye view.
Yeah, you're just looking at the front.
As long as you're not getting a black eye from this whole thing, but yeah,
right.
it's really cool. Did you do the colors for this too, or is this all? Did somebody else do the colors for it, or was this?
No, I did the colors on this.
Yeah, so that looks really, really cool too. The red just really, it's very striking, and it definitely, obviously being at the top part of it, but we don't have to go into art theory about why it looks good. It just looks good. So let's go on.
I wanted one character to be very primary, very striking, and the other to be muted. So it worked out.
It did.
Oh, and this a passion project of mine. Chimera Studio is my own studio. Aria is a sci-fi soap opera, basically. It's a story that's very politically oriented. It was, like I said, a project of mine, and working on getting chapter 2 out.
Yeah. Okay. And so Chimera Studios is your imprint, then basically that's your. If you do any personal projects, okay, gotcha. So I guess Aaron hasn't locked you down with a contract where you're an exclusive. You're still a little bit of a free agent. You're like LeBron James, kind of like the king, kind of like wandering, but you have your own little.
I don't want to bogart him. I want him to work as much as he needs to work.
I make the joke that I'm usually the hired pencil. So most of the companies that I work in, I have no stake in. I'm the hired pencil, and I come in to do the line.
Yeah, and I think that's we'll get into that a little bit later on, is because when we get into the Tilt thing about the reason why you're on it is because I think you like the character, you like what the story that Aaron's trying to push. So that helps. That even though you're
I
a
loved
free
the
agent,
script from day one.
yeah, and we're gonna get into those juicy details about who Tilt is and like what the comic is. I mean, they're on the issue 3, so well, let's just keep on going through here so we can kind of. I want to get to the good stuff. So I'm not that this stuff is bad, but I want to get to the current.
Awful, Joe. What is this crap?
I know.
Joe?
I really dropped the ball on that one.
I'm sorry. That was just a slip on my part. But I couldn't help but notice this Arya thing is a little preview. I like to think that this was done in, this is almost like foreshadowing here because we have the Vitruvian spaceman that's like here in the background.
Yeah.
But if anybody hasn't checked out the latest Tilt cover, or issue 2, I think, right? Is it issue 2 that has issue 2 has a Vitruvian man with the Tilt character there as well. So I was like, maybe this was like foreshadowing in terms of like Joe's coming to Catalyst. I don't know.
Well, I did years before I met Aaron and Matt. So
that's why I said it was divine.
Man is a very popular thing to use, and I used it as a piece, as a sample on this cover. That's actually the girl in the foreground, her in the spacesuit as the Vitruvian man.
Okay. So that, again, just really fantastic artwork here. And then let's keep on going here. So here we have a different one. This is Cop, right? And I want to tell us a little bit about this. And
this is Cop number 2. Cop number 2 is the title of the book, and it's broken up into 3 volumes, volume 1, 2, and 3. This is volume 2. The story about Cop number 2 is civil servants in a superhero world. Think of an entire superhero world serves as a parody for the superhero tropes that we all know and love. Civil servants take up arms against not just the supervillains, but the superheroes too. And by the end of volume 3, they're fighting the whole world.
I gotcha. Well, here people are already chiming in our comments section here. So I just want to. I didn't mean there to cover up your face there while you were talking, but we got Roy here who's saying amazing work here. So, and of course, this is Comics Cast. I'm assuming this is my partner in crime, Joe, who's chiming in. He's saying hello to everybody. And
hello, other Joe.
Yeah, and this is kind of funny here. I think. For those of you who know Chuck, second hottest beard in comics. What's up, Aaron? So I guess that's no slight on you, Joe, because you have facial hair too, but it's not the full beard. I guess that's I don't know if there's a length requirement. I don't know. I don't know if there's a length requirement.
I thought he was throwing shade at Aaron.
Chuck's always throwing shade at Aaron.
Okay, here I thought that just shows you me being the non-facial hair member here on the show. I was totally naive, and I thought that was a compliment. I didn't think that was shade. So, Chuck, thank you for the shade. I wanted to say thank you for the compliment for it. But Chuck is a funny guy, phenomenal editor, just a talented guy, and all together. And you can see that the independent comic scene here, with Comics Cast, we're all interconnected in some way. We all know people, and Chuck is a great guy, and I feel like I need to. Oh, there's return shade. But I feel like I need to get a beard. But I think that I'd probably have more of just like a few scraggly hairs that would pop out. Nothing as impressive as the two of you guys. So I'm gonna have to say that's just another attribute.
Me forgetting to shave for like a month.
Hey, no problem. But speaking of Chuck, before we go on, I just wanted to plug one more. Here's Chuck again. So this is not shade. This is Get Tilt, people. So nothing but the truth here. So thank you very much, Chuck, for those kind words.
Preach, Chuck, preach.
Right. So we talked a little bit of. Didn't mean to interrupt you on your art venture here, but let's keep on going here. So Cop, not Cops.
Cop number 2 is the title. It was a struggle that title, and still is, because people never remember that the title is Cop number 2. They think it's the issue number, and they look at Cop number 2 and say, "Oh, number 2, where's number 1? Where's number 3?" It's actually Cop number 2 is the title. In the first issue, which has already been released. you see that these civil servants, they spray paint titles on their chests, and there's cop number 1, cop number 2, cop number 3, EM number 1, and fire department, FD number 1. This is the group of civil servants who've taken up the fight. And the title character, the one that we see the most, the one whose journey that we focus on in the story, is cop number 2. He's the guy in the knight armor on this cover.
Oh, okay, gotcha. So it's just kind of interesting because I thought the same thing when I read it. I was like going cop number 2.
Everybody does. It's the most common misconception.
It's like I don't know, I'm an 80s child, and when I started getting in the comics, there was always this thing about how sometimes issue 2 would be more valuable than issue 1 because everybody would get maybe the premiere issue, but they would tail off and not get number 2 because maybe they just wanted to get issue number 1. And as a result, some titles back then, issue 2 would be the more lucrative, would be more valuable issue. And I was like thinking, was there
do you
some
guys remember when Image launched?
Yeah.
Do you remember when Image launched? Spawn number 4 was way more valuable than 3, 2, or 1.
Yeah, because everybody jumped on it, to get it. Of course, that was the Todd Father, a little bit of an exception, and that was the Image. If we want to go back to the '90s in terms of comics excess, that would be it. Those were the glam days, I guess, of comics. But that's kind of funny. I thought that was like kind of like I noticed there's kind of like a little theme where you kind of like some of your artwork has a underlying humor that kind of gets kind of put in there as well, and I think that's kind of the reason why I think your relationship with Aaron is I want to keep on getting on to Tilt, but I'm kind of like trying to hold myself back because I think Tilt has that comedy. I mean, it has a little bit of a comic feel to it, not comic book, but comical thing where there's some humor built into it as well. So check this out. And I noticed that you said you were an artist gun for hire. This is with Egocentric. So we're seeing so like you could see the versatility in terms of just Joe being able to work under many different banners here. But again, it was all leading to that permanent contract that's eventually coming from Catalyst. So, so here we have cop number 2 again, which is not an issue number 2.
Yeah, this is the cover for volume 3.
Yes, right. So it says volume 3 very clearly at the bottom. So, and I guess people, if they wanted to check out Cop, are these available like through like to be done?
Volumes 1 and 2 are both available on Comixology and Indie Planet, or you can order directly from Egocentric Comics. Volume 3 is currently under production.
Okay. All right. So let's keep on going. So interesting story behind Cop number 2. And then here we have Cloak. And yet another studio here. Is that LRDV?
Yeah, this is for LRDV Comics out of Canada. The Cloak is about an international assassin who is fighting the underworld element in Canada, and I believe it's Ontario.
So it's very specific. Not only is the company based in Canada, the storyline,
but they're telling stories about Canadian streets and heroes, and the book has actually been released. The number 0 was released in French.
Oh wow,
that's cool.
So you could add on your resume that you're an international superstar as well, because you're over on the border.
Yeah, a few of my clients are international. I work with creators from Russia, from the UK, from Ireland, from Canada.
Okay. So is the comic in French, or is there an English version as well, or is it like a...
There is an English version. The 0 preview is available on my DeviantArt page for free download. Yes,
I love DeviantArt before Instagram. I mean, that was definitely the artist hub to go to, and that's a reason to go back to DeviantArt. Go check out Joe's stuff there as well. But we're gonna keep on going here, and I should have checked out the order in here.
But we have the cover for volume 1.
Right. So I'm doing it Quentin Tarantino style. I'm going in reverse. So eventually maybe I'll get back to cop number 4 or cop number 2. Volume 4, which hasn't been done yet, but that would be the Quentin Tarantino style. But we're gonna keep on going here.
There will be no volume 4. It's 1 through 3, and it's self-contained.
Oh,
what you're looking at here is a piece of art for the Baltimore Comic-Con for a poster.
Right. And yeah, this is how when I saw this artwork, I realized that the creative team that I'm talking to, Catalyst Comics, is East Coast. Then the thing about Comics Cast is that we definitely have guests from all over the United States as well as all over the world. So it's always sometimes challenging to get everybody on the same page and, you know, getting our time zones all right. But when I saw this, I go, oh my gosh! You know, I found out, you know, Aaron is in North Carolina, I believe, and Joe, New York, of course. He's from New York, but he's in West Virginia currently. But noting Baltimore Comic Con, I mean, was this a poster or a cover, or what was this used for?
That was a print that I was giving away for free at the con.
Oh, okay, yeah. But as soon as I saw this, I go, because I you know, I'm near the swamp here in Washington D.C. and I do frequent. I've been to New York Comic Con, but I've always gone to Baltimore Comic Con when I can. So it was a thrill to see that. Oh my gosh, you know, a print here from Baltimore Comic Con. So I always, you know, with cons now. I guess we can talk about this a little later on, but cons no longer being in the picture, this brought back a lot of memories. Shed a tear, you know, with COVID being around. But nice to know that that you guys were in my time zone, so that was really cool. And then we go into here. We go to this very kid-friendly scene here.
Yeah,
completely in character. So here we go. So tell us
this was
a
grudge match between Wolverine and Omega Red.
No longer a grudge. I think it's a deceased.
I think it's over.
No, I don't think any healing factor.
It's
I don't
comic
know.
books, man.
Right.
Never.
No, you're right. Thank you for
I
correcting me.
know. Taking the head off is kind of funny.
Then he becomes some weird science project, and they Frankenstein him back together, and
Right.
there's a whole nother run.
It'll be not Omega Red, which is the last red. It'll be the Omega Red.
Yeah.
Or something like that. It'll be
the
the last
Omega
red.
head.
Omega
There you go.
All right, you guys got to copyright that because I'm sure that, you know, because Marvel is definitely trolling this show. They're looking for all the hottest.
Joe. Same page, man.
They're definitely like going, you know, where all the hottest talent is on Comics Cast, and they're gonna go, oh my gosh, we gotta copyright that Omega head. So that's kind of funny. But yeah, I don't know. Does Omega Red even have?
More likely, I'll get a cease and desist from Disney.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Well, he is deceased. He's deceased here.
That's
but
right.
Anyway, play on words here. But so this piece was a commission piece, or did something you did for fun?
This piece was done for a competition.
Oh, a competition.
I used to belong to a group on DeviantArt, and they're also on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram called Battle Artist. And we would do competitions between groups of artists. And one week the theme was grudge match. And so everybody had to come with two characters who had a grudge and how they were handling that grudge. So we saw a lot of Nightwing and Deadpool, Spider-Man and Green Goblin. And I think I was the only one who actually used Wolverine and Omega Red. There was a Wolverine Sabretooth, but I figured everybody was going to jump that.
Yeah, and I like you use the brown costume because that was the brown.
That's my favorite one.
That was the one that I grew up with.
That's my favorite Wolverine.
Yeah, and I'm just waiting for that. You know, just like in fashion trends, in you know the real world. I'm waiting for costume trends to come back around. They're going to do. I think they kind of like every now and then you'll see a random brown costume Wolverine. I mean, he's a fashionista. It seems like every few months he has like a new costume.
That blue and yellow spandex, that was the comeback, right? I mean, that's how he was in the beginning. And then he moved through a series of brown and orange costumes.
Yes. And
then back to the yellow and blue.
And that seems to be the thing. Everybody thinks that's the new, but no, us OG people
that's the original.
And so that's really cool. And I was kind of I know that you probably thumbnailed their first grudge match in terms of like how they deal with it. I think there was probably like the two of them were sitting like in a psychologist or psychiatrist. They were trying to work it out. The way that trying to have a joke here, and I think it's falling flat. But I had it so well in my mind. I keep on seeing this Omega head here, and it's just totally messing with me. But I was just saying that
it's better when it falls flat. It's so much better.
And so now it's immortalized here on this YouTube and Facebook. But I was just gonna say that, in this day and age, some people say it's like you got to talk it out, But no, that's not Wolverine. Wolverine is not PC.
He's a man of action.
Yeah, he's not gonna be. He's gonna be like not like Thor in the MCU. He's gonna go for the head right there and just.
That's right.
Oh, absolutely. He'll go for the head first.
Okay. So here we go. We're gonna try and get through these last few pieces because I
know that guy.
Yeah, so I just want to make sure that because I want to get to Tilt. But here we go. Great Joker, and I know this is your current avatar for Facebook. So
it is, yeah.
I know that you're a fan. It seems like you're a fan of the Joker. I take it, or at least this particular piece.
I am a huge fan of the Joker.
Yeah, and so
I love him
I'm a
as
big fan of the
character.
wingtips, man. Wingtips all day.
I love those. Right, the spats are on.
That's what I wore at my
perfect.
wedding with some black and white wingtips.
I noticed the understated cummerbund here. It's not the full cummerbund, but it's I noticed this does have kind of, if the Joker was going to a wedding, this is like the wedding attire there. So very, very cool.
Well, I didn't intend it to be like wedding attire. I intended it to be. I wanted to show him a bit bulkier than he's usually shown.
Yeah.
So I wanted to show the pants and the coat are all flexed. That there's probably substance underneath those clothes.
Right, and that's another thing.
You can see it a little bit in the chest, a little bit in the arms, definitely in the thighs.
Yeah, I think that for our guests that are watching, I forgot to mention that remember that this is a participation show, so please go to the comment fields, and when we get to the live drawing, we would definitely like to have people engaged in that as well. But that's another thing that
stuff in the comments. Say weird stuff.
Yeah, that's right.
Make it awkward.
The weird stuff is
to make it awkward.
That's what will get you on the. We'll pop up those weird comments because we want that to be there. Those are definitely not showstoppers, but they'll definitely get us some conversation going. But I love how you handle the fabrics here too. You were talking about that. Is that I think some artists they get so caught up in like superhero anatomy and not knowing that when you put clothing on, it changes it, and you can kind of.
It's not always skin tight, is it?
Exactly.
Right.
This is not a skin tight, a suit here. This is a formal wear, the formal wear for Joker here, and yet you can still see the musculature under it. So, very, very nice attention to detail. So let's keep on going here. So we have some the cool here. We're back on Earth, so this is that worm's eye perspective, but it looks like he's coming straight at you, but you get to see your attention to architecture and capturing that whole motion, even though it's a static image here. You want to talk a little bit about this, or is it all speak for itself?
This is a bit of raw pencils of Miles Morales, a Spider-Man. I wanted to play with the forced perspective of him pulling himself down to street level.
Yeah, very difficult.
It came out pretty well. People seem to like it.
Yes, I mean is there a finished piece of this, or is it just exist in raw pencils?
This is just finished pencils. I wouldn't take this any further with pencils or traditional. After this, it would probably get scanned, inked, and colored digitally.
Yeah, I mean that's really tight too. I think that you scan it, you could probably just even manipulate it a bit, and it because the pencils are so tight that you could go straight to coloring. You just need to adjust the levels and make those pencils look like inks.
Well, I've done that. So I've done that, but I prefer inking even digitally because it gives it a much cleaner line, and it's like we were saying earlier. Yeah, I'm a little bit known for the clean lines. I like it myself. I consider it my style.
Yeah. Very clean stuff. And here, New York favorite here. They got the Punisher with Frank Castle. Very cool, and it shows also your attention here. And me, what I notice is because I am familiar with it's the proper drawing of firearms, and stuff like that. It's like it makes it because it's good to do a sci-fi gun because there's no you can make it whatever. But here, I mean, I think that was the beauty of Jim Lee when he did Punisher War Journal.
Yeah,
and I think they did the Punisher Armory, is adding that bit of realism to it. And you see his expression here. It's like you capture the Punisher. It's like, hey, he's just giving you that that stare before you see the end of his bullet. But it's definitely a cool.
It's what I was going for. As I was drawing this, I was keeping in mind what is a 1,000-yard stare. You know, I mean, what does that look like coming out of somebody's eyes? So
Yeah,
this is what I imagined it would look like.
Yeah, the pencils too, so clean. I have to call you Mr. Clean here because I mean everything. These are pencils, and it's just phenomenal. I mean, even the shading and even the tones, just really brilliant artwork. Here we getting back. I guess.
Thank you.
No, I didn't. There was. Is this for one of what series is this for?
This was for actually this was for my daughter's birthday. She likes steampunk, and I did it for her birthday a bunch of years ago. It eventually became my most popular print. It sells like hotcakes. People like the steampunk aesthetic. I enjoy doing it.
Yeah, that you pulled it off really well. I think Aaron and I are probably looking at ways we can get adopted by you, so we can get our own. We can get our own prints here for our birthdays.
Family
very cool
discount.
Yeah, at the very least. But yeah, this is really cool. The steampunk aesthetic. And then we have this, the Dreaming. So you want to tell a little bit about this? Talk about
a bit of fan art. I'm a huge Neil Gaiman fan, and this was a bit of fan art from my favorites of his, which is The Sandman. This depicts a bunch of characters from The Dreaming, including Daniel, the Sandman himself. The caretaker of the property, which is a pumpkin head, his sister Death, the Corinthian, I believe that's Irving the Gargoyle, and Matthew the Raven.
And I'm actually not too familiar with this property. Who's this little character? The character right here. This
Irving the Gargoyle.
Irving. Okay, yeah. And then we have Valentine. Another. I guess this is
another book from LRDV Comics. This is a sci-fi space opera, kind of Fly meets Star Trek.
Yeah, for some reason I look at this and I got like a again, this is the 80s child in me talking. I got a Battlestar Galactica vibe from it. I don't know, Aaron, did you
definitely sci-fi space opera?
Oh yes.
Yeah. So very cool. And I think that's it. So in terms of like the fan art, I encourage you also to check, like I said, check out his DeviantArt page, Joe's, as well as his Facebook page, and of course Aaron's, to see all that. But I want to get to the juicy stuff here now, which is Catalyst. And this is where this is the current crowdfunding campaign, which is going for, like I said, issue 3, or let me get that in front. So it's issue 3. Issue 1 and 2 are also available, so people can catch up with where they are at issue 3. But as I was reading it, I mean, as I was talking to them and just learning more about who Tilt is, and Tilt is the name of the comic, but it's also the name of the main character. And here we have him here. So I had so many questions because I hadn't got a chance to pick up the book, and I just got to know you guys. But this in itself is a very striking image, and I just like it. It's like Tilt homebrewed, and it intrigued me. If anybody saw this on the shelf and saw it, it's like, what exactly does that mean? It grabs you. So that I'm gonna let Aaron talk a little bit about Tilt while we go through some of these issues or the art that I have for Tilt. And take it away. Just tell us a little bit about it so we can let our audience know a little bit more about it.
Yeah, so Tilt, his real name is Patrick A. Tilt. So his last name is actually Irish, and the Irish phrasing for that means flight. So he can fly. That's kind of the first power that he exhibits in issue 1 back when he was a teenager, and it's what sets off the chain of events that gets him semi-adopted by a council. It's called the Council of Elders, and they're a worldwide organization. They span across all of the Catalyst Comics superhero universe, and they exist to exploit superheroes, or as we call them, hyper-evolved, which means that they all exhibit superpowers, similar way to mutantism. But yeah, so for Patrick, his is flight, super strength, things like that. So he became a mercenary for this group, and then I'm trying to make sure I don't say anything that gives too much away. He saw this opportunity to break out, and he did. And when you break out of something you've only been a part of since you're a teenager, and that's all you've ever known, you don't really have a place to go, especially when it was your parents that kind of gave you away. So he's homeless. He's a homeless superhero. He's a fourth wall breaker, so he talks to the audience most of the time. and he kind of lets you in on his thoughts as he's approaching. Pretty much what he's trying to figure out is who it is that's after him, knowing what he knows about the Council of Elders, and then he wants to figure that out so he can reverse it and kind of climb up and find out who is behind the council, because they are, like I said, a secretive organization. So gritty, a lot of humor, because he was taken as a teenager. He still very much has that kind of 15-year-old mindset, and he's fun to mess with. And there's some other big characters in the universe as well, and a lot of other big characters in his own books. There's Exquisite, who is an African-American billionaire who owns a bunch of companies in the Tilt universe, and that is who gave Patrick to the council. So that's his first point of contact. And you kind of discover that Exquisite plays both sides. He doesn't work for the council, but he doesn't work on the side of heroes either. It's just wherever he wants to be because he has enough money to cover himself. And then Cindy, aka Sprocket, is one of the other big characters too. She's another superhero.
Let's save that because we're going to actually talk a little bit more about
that.
But I just love the angle of this. I mean, obviously, probably people are going to maybe go, well, hell, I mean, this kind of has a little bit of the boys kind of vibe to it. But what I like, it's a little bit different because he kind of left the organization, tried to be his own person, but he's not used to being on his own. So it definitely has a different side story. And of course, you talk about the fourth wall thing. So you get no truer representation of seeing that character's point of view, because he's like talking to you about, should I go get a drink of water right now? Should I kill this bad guy? It's just really, I think Deadpool kind of like, I guess kind of like, I don't know to say he pioneered it. I guess he's just best known for that kind of fourth wall type thing, but it's not like he copyrighted that thing. So I think that's kind of neat to see it from this perspective.
People love feeling like a voyeur. They love feeling like they have a window into the story that nobody else does.
That is so true. And I didn't know about the element too, about how you said that this is all he's known. It's kind of like those childhood actors and actresses. If they've only known that since they were little, or in this case when he was a teenager, it's kind of like that's their reality regardless, and they don't really know how to behave outside of that reality once
well, that's one of the fun things about him is that being taken at around 15, that's where his kind of social development stopped, because it's not like you're hanging out with friends when you're training getting put through science experiments to become a mercenary. So then his life turned into a life of being a mercenary for this group. And so once he does get out, he still has that 15-year-old kind of look at the world. So it's been fun to kind of explore that and regress back into our teenage years.
It's kind of like I could see a potential team up here where we could, if you ever wanted to, because DC is the other company that definitely watches Comics Cast all the time, but if they're watching this, I could see like a Tilt Shazam team up, and it would be kind of neat to see, a Billy Batson like talking to Tilt, and then they totally understand each other, even though it's Billy Batson and it's
for sure
out of costume, because I think it has that kind of you're exploring that same kind of mentality, that storyline in terms of having to deal with a reality, even though you're much more older or you have these superhuman powers. And he's also, you said he has a power of flight, but obviously he looks very, very muscular here. So I guess he has like strength. What are his other power sets? Is it just those two things, or?
Flight, super strength, and then you find one out at the end of the first one / beginning of the second one.
Okay, no spoilers, but unless it's something you want to talk about. Okay, good.
No.
I gotta read the book. I mean, you can tell me, because then I can feel a little bit like, oh, I know now. But gotta read the book. Gotta get those other issues so you can find a little bit about what his third superpower is. But as I was just showing these two, and again, this was the Truvian man that we had talked about, which I think was fate. That Joe was going to come back around here. But we have these two things which are homages to classical Renaissance thing, and I think we talked a little bit about this. This is a little bit of a tongue-in-cheek too, in terms of like being a little the humor that we had talked about. You want to talk a little bit about the meaning behind these two particular covers and why you went in that direction?
Yeah, so one of the biggest things behind Tilt is as a character, he is very much playing on the tropes of the superhero stories that we all know. You mentioned Deadpool. One of the key differences for me in writing Tilt is that Deadpool is aware that he's in a comic book, whereas Tilt we're looking into his world, but he doesn't know that he's a comic book. So that does play a little bit differently on the way that you talk to the audience and things like that. So with this kind of stuff, we just thought it would be funny to do for his first arc of stories to do plays on Renaissance style. And then when you look at this particular cover, there's a blue suit behind the white suit. And one of the big tropes in superhero comic books, in fact, we just talked about it with the suits that Wolverine wears, is that superheroes seem to change suits a lot. And so our plan was in the first 3 issues, we have him in 3 different suits. And so he goes from a t-shirt and jeans where he just kind of painted his own logo on it. And that's when he's homeless and trying to figure stuff out. And then he upgrades to the white suit, but then they realize the white suit's not going to work because he keeps getting blood all over it when he beats people up. So then they have to jump to the blue suit. So it's nice and dark blue. So, some blood might show up, but it's not going to be as bad as wearing a white suit. And then the Statue of David, it's just funny because one of the things about his character and his personality is, me too, man. One of the things about that personality is that he's confident. Look at his abs is all I'm saying. Of course he's confident. We said it yesterday if we had abs like that, I'd probably take my shirt off all the time.
We'd all have like statues of David in the likeness of Aaron on our shelves, right?
That's right. So we play with that stuff. I had said yesterday too, we're gonna, when we move into the next story arc, we'll probably start doing more traditional style superhero covers, and then every once in a while we'll do a variant playing on that Renaissance stuff. So we have one more planned, and I'm not going to say what it is, but it'll be cool.
Yeah. And I can safely say
it's important not the Mona Lisa. Matt Sotelo has done an amazing job on all of the covers. This one on number 3 specifically, I love the most. I really adore this cover.
Yeah, I do too. It's another thing is that all these covers are definitely very striking, and it makes it's like when we comics they're on the shelf, and you got to grab people's attention. It's like billboards. People are just passing by, and especially as an independent comic, you got to kind of have to like break through in terms of if. I would love to see all of our guests' independent comics on a shelf, like in a local comic book store. And if that was the case, even if there was an independent section, or if you guys were just mingled or just all in among all the big box stores, when you see something like this, it's like, what is that about? You were talking about the whole practicality part of the white suit versus the blue suit. And and I go, man, it's like the struggle's real. Superheroing, you got to consider what a white suit is. It's like that's why
it doesn't work.
Dudes don't wear we don't wear a lot of white pants or white shirts because
that's right.
That we would probably decide to eat spaghetti, and next thing you know, it's like spaghetti ends up on your shirt and pants. It's like that's why you got to wear the blue suit, right?
That's right.
Got to do that. So
this is one of all 3 of these covers that we've shown. It's just breaking rules. It's breaking the rules of what a superhero comic book cover is supposed to be, because they're not superheroic at all. It's just him in a suit in different ways, and it doesn't show like some big action sequence or anything. No, it's just because the whole point. Let's figure out who this guy is. And then, after issue 4, you're going to pretty much know his personality. You'll know who he is. So then we can start getting into the more, superhero style that people are used to. But for this first arc, we do what we want.
This is what we call character development, something that's lost sometimes in some of the big box things, like, or not only that, sometimes they just do a 180 on character development. It's you have established character. And this is what, again, you're going to get a treat from independent creators, is that they want you to get vested in their characters. So let's spend some time to tell a story. And you were talking about like the superhero thing. There's definitely a superhero things, and we're going to get into those sequentials here. But before I get to those action sequence, which Joe is a master of, I this was some of the art that I got to show about. Aaron said that he was a musician, so when Tilt becomes a Netflix original, he's going to do all the soundtrack, and you just got a preview of the title track. Not to call
the title track is called "Brown Chicken, Brown Cow" by Adam Dowen.
That's right.
Okay, so that being said, I'm looking at this artwork, and this is an interior for which issue, or is this
3?
This is from number 3.
Yeah, this is
But
what
don't worry. He takes his shirt off in every issue.
So you can look forward to that too. And that's what I was like looking at this issue, and it was like, this is what I thought was really cool about Tilt and the Catalyst comics, their approach here. It's like, this is a total beefcake shot. This is like,
sure.
The
best part
is
is we didn't know you, and you asked us to send you art, and I'm like, I'm gonna send him a beefcake page.
And if you look on the Kickstarter page, we will share a little later on. This particular sequential is like tiny compared to everything else. But I got this piece, and I wanted to share this with everybody because this isn't lettered. You don't know what's being said, or it looks like a very deep, thoughtful moment here that Tilt is having. And of course, it's epitomized by him taking a selfie there at the bottom. But I was just totally I was kind of like laughing and just kind of like, what is going on here? And we were talking about that whole classical Renaissance style here. Joe, we see this shot here and it looks total pinup. But for those of us who are art history geeks who actually did art history in college or do it for fun, I guess there's some people that just love that, I guess. But it's a idealized art. Male pose, I guess, for like Renaissance style things here. Yet, here we have Tilt doing it, and this is the humor that I was talking about.
Joe slayed the anatomy on this page. It is fantastic.
It is great. So I'm gonna.
This page served a couple of purposes. It did. The sequentials of the page served moving the story forward. I believe what he's doing on this page is going through a thought process with the reader. So I mean, we're right up front about it. It's a fourth wall breaking story, and this is him breaking that fourth wall and going through his decision making process. The other purpose that it serves is that I was told early on that this title was popular with the ladies, so I wanted to make sure that we were well served in their I don't know, appetite for beefcake, I guess. So if I have to find reasons to take this man out of his shirt, I absolutely will.
Aaron, you got to work that in there.
Till
satisfying the appetite for beefcake.
That's right. I posted something the other day about it. How about a slice of beefcake? And this is that top image is the one I use. I mean, there's a lot that kind of went into my thought process on this. One of the big heroes in or influences when I write comics is Tim Seeley. And the reason being is Nightwing is my favorite comic book character, and he had a fantastic run on Nightwing and on Grayson. And we got to have him on the podcast a few weeks ago, maybe a month or two ago. And it was for me, I was nerding out. But what I loved about it was we got to talk about why he beefcaked Nightwing so much, because if you know Nightwing, that is his character. That is very much who he is. He's very confident, and ladies just love Nightwing. And that was one of the things he said. So the other day when I posted that image saying, how about a slice of beefcake, I shot Tim an email, and I was like, dude, I just wanted to show you this because you had such an influence on one of the things we do with one of our characters. And he emailed me back, and he was like, yeah, man. He was like, this is freaking awesome. Also, mutual exploitation. I was like, there you go, man. There you go.
And you talk about that. It's not really mutual exploitation. It's kind of like, I think that's where the culture's kind of gotten a little bit far from. I mean, comic heroes, whether they be male or female, have always been idealized. I mean, you can go back. We were talking about art history. What did the Greeks and their Greek art, ancient Greek art? It's like, how did they idealize the human form? How did the Egyptians idealize the form? And then you talk about, Eastern, ancient Chinese and Japanese things. And I think now it just seems like everybody gets all bent out of shape here. And I think that's the humor too here, is that everybody gets bent out of shape when it's, when it seems like people think that, we're just totally objectifying the female form here. And I think this is what you're kind of doing here. It's sort of like it's equal opportunity, not really objectifying. It's just saying this is your way of saying it's always been there, right? And it's not meant to exploit anything. It's just that's comics, right?
So, well, one of the things that happened, and I think this is why Joe ramped it up, with issues 2 and 3 with kind of shirt offedness is the first Comic-Con that Matt, the other co-owner, and I ever went to. We had the big poster behind us that had Tilt on it, and he's ripped one way or the other, and we had people across from us. They had their own table. They were more of the craft service things, I guess. They like make buttons and all that kind of stuff. So we're just sitting there. It's day 2 of the con, and this piece of paper just comes flying over toward us and stops kind of dead short of the table. And we looked over there, and she was just pointing at the ground. She was like, go pick that up. So we grab it, and it was a secret message. So we picked it up and opened it up, and all it said on it was, I would like to make Tilt my waifu. And we didn't know what that term even meant. So then Matt and I were like, dude, what does this mean? And,
Google.
That's exactly what we did. And so then we went over and talked to her, and kind of we made her weekend, because we gave her one of the big prints that we had printed out of Tilt in his suit, and then gave her a copy of number 1 and signed it for her. And she sent another message and said something about like, I think he's going to be my husband now, or something like that. And this is like a 20-something-year-old woman who's at a Comic-Con with her own display in her own setup, and she's throwing notes across the aisle like we're in high school.
No, it's like, this is
because she fell in love with Patrick.
I know. It's
yeah.
I was gonna say,
Patrick's a hard drug to quit, man. He's a hard drug to quit.
It's a focus group. This is focus group in action here. You got like somebody who probably doesn't, hasn't seen anything. They just see the artwork there, and they love it. And you know what? I'm just gonna put in some chats here. I mean, some comments here. We got Roy talking about superb art. We got here Brett.
Thank you, Roy.
Look at this. Man, this sounds cool. I better go check out this Kickstarter and reserve my copy. Brent, if you don't do the search, I'm going to show it later on. But yes, thank you so much.
Don't listen to Brent. He's my old manager. He's backed everything we did. He's one of those 2 that so far have gotten the package where you can get drawn into issue 4. He's just being dumb.
No, you didn't say that. That was a testimonial right there. That was really
I know.
funny.
We appreciate it. He's just funny to me.
Even here we got my partner in crime, Joe Tolliver, saying he loves the page, and I think you're going to get a trip out of this one. Look at that.
Oh, Travis.
But he follows it up, when you're talking about it. He said, "Wow, Aaron Dowen." So I take it that was a compliment.
My guess is that he was like, "Wow, how'd you not know what the term waifu meant?"
Okay. Well, depending on what circles you travel in, if you knew what that meant, that means that's like, oh, you know what that means?
It was news to me. I had no idea before.
In some other circles, it's like that is high praise, because that means that people identify with the character and they're enamored to the point.
Oh,
where
that made our weekend. We were good to go after that.
So that's high praise in this case. So let's keep on going here. That is an interesting page, and you got to pick up issue 3 so you can get the words, so you can see what he actually is thinking, because you can actually kind of like think what he's thinking, but that's the beauty of Joe's artwork and Aaron's storytelling here, is that Aaron, I think he talks to when we were talking yesterday, he sort of said, well, their process. Aaron writes, obviously he's writing the story. He does give an idea of like what would be done in every panel, but he gives a lot of creative freedom to his artist, in this case Joe, to interpret it and kind of do a true collaborative process, so that in essence it is a true sequential story, because it's only strengthened by
this page is actually a perfect example of that.
Yeah,
because
for sure.
Panel 4 on this page, in the script, it had him giving information to the reader. It has him talking about his situation and what he's doing. But in the script, it was just a talking head. There was no direction past that. So I wanted to make it more interesting, and I asked Aaron, is it okay if I blow out this panel and I make it an open panel on the entire page? And I thought there was no better way to do that than a selfie, which is in the same room that he's in for the rest of the scene. But it really pulled the whole page together in terms of composition.
Oh, yeah. Exactly, and it makes it relevant in a way, in terms of like, well, selfies have been around for a long time, but it kind of like it's adding that whole this is a part of pop culture. This is what people do all the time, and it grounds him in our reality. And of course, you're talking about the fourth wall. So you actually, I think a lot of viewers can kind of like look at this and just sort of empathize or just know what's going on. I mean, I don't know what words are being spoken here, but you can fill in the blanks already and kind of know what this page is about. And by doing that fourth panel here, which is actually the entire background with a selfie, it's almost like this is a sequence where it's like snap, snap, snap. You know, he's like, like, let me put myself in this pose, let me put in the self pose, and it's just kind of funny. And then those of you who didn't notice here, it's the spoon on his nose, thing. So
it's a running gag that we have. I think in everything we've done so far, except for the horror book, where there's yogurt, just at some point. At some point, they're eating yogurt. Yeah, well, we made up a yogurt company, so we started using it in anything we could, and it's called It's Freaking Cold. And so, yeah, it's in Paradigm, and then it's all of Tilt as well.
So that's like the Easter egg that's in like all the, if that was the consistency in the Catalyst comics universe, it's the yogurt, right?
Yep.
You guys got to capitalize on it. Make that get something with Yo Play to make a comics Catalyst. Like, that could be something you could have at all your shows. Check out, buy a comic and get some of our yogurt. I think that would be kind of funny to hear. But, we've been seeing this thing here and just totally digging the shot. But then for those of us who still crave the whole action comics, action here, it's like, here we go. I mean, look at this. I was looking at this and it just Joe pulls this off here, and I think the storytelling in it is great, because here we just have this sequence, and it's almost like it looks like a storyboard. It's very cinematic in its quality, and you have perspective that's very hard to pull off too, because if you do it wrong, the mind will tell you, it's like, why is that guy's head so massive, and why are those people so tiny? It's like, you put background elements to frame the shot, and you see like it's almost like it's a storyboard, and everything links to each other, and when you know that it works, it works. It's when it looks, if the perspective is wrong or things like that, even to the layperson, they'll pick it up and they go, well, that does look like a big head in the foreground, and those people do look tiny. It doesn't push you back into the background, so you see that. So that's testament to the storytelling and also the visual storytelling part of it. So you want briefly want to talk a little bit about this page. Is this in issue 3 as well, or is this in?
Yeah. So this is another way that Joe and I break rules. So this is page 1. You never start a comic book this way. I would just about challenge anyone to find a comic book that has the kind of like pushed back, open view kind of start to the book. But you know what? I don't care. This is why we're indie comics right here. It's because we get to play with the boundaries and push things the way that we did. And Joe didn't say anything about it, so he went with it.
Absolutely. I loved it.
Yeah.
I loved that on the very first page, we opened with an action sequence. At the end
people
of
getting
Tilt
wrecked.
2, yes, at the end of Tilt 2, Aaron promised us that Tilt 3 was going to be action-packed from cover to cover. Okay. He didn't lie.
What about, like,
you open the front cover, and there it is. right there. He's going after a gang of criminals.
Yeah, that's it's like, we don't want to do slow build. Let's just go straight into the action. But I wanted, let's see, here we go. Justin Acosta, you have to hook them quick. He's talking about. That's right. Justin is another independent creator who has been here on Comics Cast as well, and he's you guys are doing the same thing. It's like you got to hook because you don't have the luxury of just having like a Marvel or a DC badge. I'm like mentioning that a lot. They're probably going to come and give me a cease and desist. I'm just saying that bigger companies, it's like you kind of have that the luxury of having a big company behind you, but when you are an independent, you don't have that. And I think let's go back to Todd McFarlane here. Todd McFarlane, when he came out with Spawn, he pretty much, I think he had hard advice, which is totally true to a lot of independent creators, is that he basically said no one cares about your character because they don't know. No one cares about Tilt. Your point to grab them, to hook them, like Justin said, and tell that story, and that way they become the Spawn or the Superman or the Spider-Man, because then they get invested in it. And I just wanted to go through a little bit of these things here that we got Ryan here saying Tilt is the man.
Hey, Shimmy.
So I think it was Ryan who actually introduced me to you guys, or said, hey, you got to check out these guys out. and he's been nothing but speaking the truth here, because I'm having a trip here talking to you, and then we have another comment here. Let me see if I can find it real quick. Justin talks about who is the villain, and let me tell you who the villain is. I'm going to go real quick through this because I want to get to the drawing part of it, because that's another treat. That's where the magic happens. But you're talking about action, so here's another action sequence. Again, you don't see any of the you don't see the words yet, but this is basically Aaron and Joe working out the panels and talking about how this is going to work, and just Joe interpreting the script and being able to tell a really cool action sequence. And we were talking about different points of views and how you use angles to tell things, move the reader's eye from panel to panel. You don't see the words, but you get it. You know what's going on. It just works. And it's so clean. Colors are very vibrant. This is what you have to look forward to when you get issues 1, 2, and 3. This is part of 3 as well, I take it?
Yes, it is.
All the pages in Slant were part of 3. This was one of those moments, too, where the collaborative process is so important, because when I sent Joe the script and he read through it, when we got to this page for the art, his first question to me was like, okay, which missile? And he was like, here's the options of actual missiles. So
that's the research. That's the research.
But it's one of the things I love about working with Joe, is that he likes that stuff too. And so he's into
absolutely.
like, okay, well, let's try to make it as realistic as possible. And then, I mean, the colors on this page are just insane to me. But yeah, I think it pulled together really well. I don't like showing a lot of things with the words on it because I feel like I'm giving too much away. Maybe I should
get the book.
Telling more. Oh, well, yeah.
No, you're good, because if it was me, I'd keep on like pressing you to tell me more, and I don't want you to spoil it because I want people to get it. And I think that's the good thing about, I mean, this team at Catalyst Comics and Tilt is that the panel's already telling a lot of things, and it's just, to me, it's intriguing me, and I think a lot of our viewers, if they watch, they see this, back it, find out what's about.
I think we've spoken about that previously, that a sequential storytelling is exactly that. Even without the words, you should be able to follow the action of what's going on in the story.
Absolutely.
Just panel to panel with your eyes.
Yeah, and I think that we got some other viewers here that are saying the same thing. Haha, so action-packed. The very first page will hit you in the face. That's a hook. That is so true. And following up on what Justin asked earlier about who is the villain. So let's talk about the villain here. And villain is Talon, right? Is that correct?
Yeah. Talon.
So, let's talk a little bit about villain here, because we got to know a little bit about Tilt, and you mentioned some of the supporting characters here. Talon was not one of the ones you mentioned, but tell us just really briefly who Talon is, because I want to get to the magic part of it where we start drawing. But let's talk about Talon a little bit.
Yeah, definitely. So I will throw this out there. If you really want to get a vibe for how Talon is, watch the video on the Kickstarter. We did a full voiceover kind of trailer for Tilt 3, and I think it gives it shows some panels from issue 2 with the voiceover, and I think it really gives you a feel for who he is and his mentality behind stuff. But Talon,
without spoiling.
Yeah, I can. Yeah, well, I can say it because I guess in the grand scheme of of the first arc, it's really not a huge spoiler. But Talon was Tilt's partner when they were mercenaries, and so it's kind of a classic spin on. Again, we play a lot off of superhero tropes, and that's one of the big tropes is having the ex partner. So yeah, they're just on opposite sides, and it's that simple. They're just on opposite sides.
Great. So, something to look forward to in terms of look for Talon, and he's the antagonist in Tilt. And let's go into where we're gonna start getting ready to do our first drawing challenge here. So here we have Sprocket, and you mentioned her briefly in there. And this will be our first drawing challenge, and I want our audience to kind of see who we're going to be drawing. So give us a little description. She definitely blonde, white. She has the white costume, though. I noticed that too. So, and I was like, is that a lightsaber? It looks like a lightsaber there. And maybe that's me being a Star Wars nerd. I was like, wow, is she like a Jedi here or something like that? Or I don't know. Or maybe this is your things about making fun of other things, or at least bring in some of that humor. But yeah, tell us a little bit about Sprocket.
Yeah, so Sprocket, you first meet her as her normal self. Her name is Cindy. She's a research and developer, and I had mentioned earlier Exquisite. He's a billionaire that owns different R&D companies. So in the first issue, he gets Patrick linked up with Cindy, who is Sprocket, and he kind of discovers who she is and that she's actually a superhero as well, but not super, because she does not have any powers. She is just a vigilante kind of doing her own thing. And so she is really his challenge to step up. And so you kind of see what we're doing with the weapon on the page I sent you. There's more into that shows you a little bit more. But that particular weapon, we did play off a lightsaber because I'm a huge Star Wars nerd. But it can be a whip, or she can flick the button and it becomes almost like a blade. Found a way
to one up a lightsaber. That is, you should get just turtle nerd cred right there. It's not only a sword, it's a whip, laser. It's laser whip.
Yeah, and it's something that she researched and developed, and it's what she uses when she's out on the town. So you could see in the book we ended up going with a kind of a pale pink suit. Just to give a little bit more contrast, and kind of play on, not just going full white, but
coloring here definitely sets the mood here. And I just thought that might have been because it's a kind of a night shot that I didn't know if it was white or if it was pink. I just thought that was kind of the really cool color adjustments that are made during this particular scene. But it's done really well. She's a interesting character here. She has that I don't have to have powers. So here we got empowerment here, of a female character here who doesn't have to rely on it's her mind and her skill.
She'll wreck some people. She doesn't care.
Right, especially with that.
One of the things that I like about Sprocket is that she's not just a pretty face that's the muscle. Like most female superheroes, the thing that's special about them is superhero, that they have powers.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
But one of the things we did with
what
her
I like about her is that
go ahead.
She's a scientist. She's the mind behind all that.
Yes.
And
I think that's so cool. And what were you going to say, Aaron? Did you have something else you want to?
Well, one of the things we wanted to have with her is I wanted her to be strong, a strong presence, a strong contrast for Tilt to kind of have to look at his own self. And with her being who she is, she can be fierce and take some people down, but she also doesn't shy away from her feminine side when she needs to. So is trying to bring a real balance to letting her be a normal kind of person that's just also a vigilante and super smart.
Now I'm going to actually, I hope you have a little bit more to talk a little bit about her, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to rely on you to be a little bit more of the narrator here, because we're going to go into our first one. And I got so carried away talking to you guys, just totally enjoying this interview experience, that we're like an hour into the show. We haven't done our first drawing challenge. So I want to, this is going to be one of those marathons. So let's get to our first drawing challenge, which is to draw Sprocket, which is their original character from the Tilt IP. I'm going to bring up the magic screen here. This is where we get to see the total the coolness here of Joe's artwork here, because you're going to get the materialized see it happen. So we're going to draw Sprocket, and I'm going to let him go, and then we'll talk a little bit about this process that he's going through as we go through. But Aaron, you can talk about Sprocket. You can kind of talk about maybe whatever you choose to get, if you want to go further into her backstory or where she fills in to this whole thing. But I'll leave it up to you. You can just sort of use this as an opportunity to talk a little bit about Catalyst and her larger role, whatever you can reveal. And we're going to start drawing, and we'll say Joe, it's 2:11 right now. I can't believe that it's 2:11. Let's start with let's say 15 minutes. So let's say or just over 15 minutes. Let's do 2:30 is when we'll do pencils down. And look,
Joe's already going. He's
okay.
going. He's killing.
I don't think you have to worry about Joe. It's more me. But let's go ahead and do that drawing. So
well, I'm not
Aaron,
sure how far I'll be able to get in 15 minutes, but I will absolutely do my best.
That's the challenge.
That's the challenge. We just want to get a feel for your art style. So have at it. And Aaron, both of you actually, you guys want to talk a little bit about tell us a little bit about her look. Was she always going to be blonde? Was she going to have, was she going to be a different nationality? I don't know. Tell us about the thought process in terms of.
So I'll start it off with where we started, and then Joe can kind of share the things that he added in. So one of the things we do with the superhero universe is Matt does the character designs, the initial character designs. I said earlier, Matt is the other co-owner for Catalyst. He's also one of our illustrators. But he came up with the idea. I just basically I give them an idea of what I'd like to see. And then I start with it's so hard not to just watch. I can't look at the screen. You guys are throwing me off, man.
I know, I'm going to
But yeah, so I had an idea for her. I kind of knew I wanted to play on the kind of pink style. And I knew with her name being Sprocket, her logo needed to be something gearish. And then just kind of play off of that. And I had already told Matt and Joe her backstory of kind of who she is. We don't explore too much of her backstory. We may in the future, but as far as the full Catalyst Comics universe, it's I don't want to say it's irrelevant because it will matter, and like I said, we may explore it in the future. But she is a secondary character. But I left it open so that if we ever want to explore more of her, she can kind of have her own little solo runs or extra stories at the back of some other stuff. But she is an integral part to Tilt's story. Like I said, she really challenges him to pick up the mantle that he knows he needs to pick up, and to push into being the superhero that the city needs, and eventually, as we'll learn soon, as the world needs. So she is an R&D as well, which means we'll start seeing her tech show up kind of throughout the Catalyst Comics universe. One of our other big characters is Paradigm. He's what kind of started everything off, and he's a research and developer as well. He's younger, and that's pretty cool. So eventually, I might have it where they meet, or have like a showdown of some R&D tech, and just kind of see who comes out on top.
Oh, that would be so cool.
Yeah, I mean, with the joy of integrating everything together, we have options to where you can see these characters cross over in different ways. For instance, if Cindy Sprocket does meet Paradigm, whose real name is Ben, chances are they're probably going to meet at like an R&D con or event or something.
Right.
And so they probably wouldn't even know that each other... Yeah, and so they probably wouldn't know that each other are heroes, and then that would probably
meet, right?
Yeah, and then that would tie in as well with Exquisite being a billionaire philanthropist that owns a bunch of companies. I'm sure the company that Ben works for is tied in somehow, or maybe a competitor. So we can play on all that as well. So yeah, but I gave the basic idea. I know there are specific things that Joe brought to the table that he wanted to see, because I think Joe, if I remember right, the goggles were your idea, right?
I expanded on the goggles that Matt designed. His goggles were just like kind of like biker goggles, and I wanted it to be a bit more techy.
Right. And then you put a little more to the lightsaber feel too.
Oh yeah, I remember asking you that question. Can I make this look like a lightsaber?
And I said, please.
Okay, so the whole lightsaber thing was a joint process in terms of like making it.
Oh, it was a conscious decision, absolutely.
Okay,
yeah,
all right.
Yeah,
okay.
It was. I know it was definitely a point of conversation because, of course, in my mind, I was like, I want this to look like a lightsaber, but then the other side of me was like, but I also don't want to get sued. And then when I send the concept to Joe, and Joe's like, so you want this to be like a lightsaber? I was like, yeah, man, let's do it.
Screw being sued. Let's just do it, right?
That's right.
But it doesn't have to be called a lightsaber, because it's what actually
it's
what
not.
Is it called?
Yeah.
What is it called? What is it called?
It doesn't even have a name. It's just it's a mix between a whip and a blade. I mean, it's something that she developed. So she did. Yeah, right. It's the tool of her trade.
Tech. Right. Okay.
Oh, hi, Ed Williams.
Oh yeah.
He said, "What's up?" I just want you can draw. I was just reading.
Let me put up there. Yep. So, and here's somebody. I just want to pop up there. It says, "How quickly does your team put out an issue?" So that'll give you. That was from Justin as well. So I'll let you talk a little bit about that while we're drawing here, and if you can kind of expand upon that.
Yeah. So we have a few different things going on. There's Paradigm came out. We kickstarted it at the end of I'm trying to get my dates right. 2018. So it released in March of 2019 outside of Kickstarter. After that released is when we didn't even kickstart till issue 1. We just straight up made it and started selling it. And
baptism by fire. Didn't even do crowdfunding. Let's put it out there.
Nope, didn't even crowdfund it. Joe was all in as soon as he read it, and you could tell he was confident enough to go for it. And we put out Tilt 1. People really responded well to it. I had mentioned too that we had some stores that are really interested in it, and so we put that out. It went really well. People started demanding issue 2, so we went ahead and kickstarted that in September of last year, and then we put that out, and then now we're on Tilt 3. We just released a horror book, which is our first horror book, not tied into the superhero universe, but still under the Catalyst Comics company name, and that just came out.
Does it have yogurt in it? Does this horror comic have yogurt?
It does not. Yeah, I wanted to keep those separate.
Okay.
Because people have asked, they were like, "Oh, will this tie in?" And I was like, "No, this is completely with what's going on in that story. It is completely different. And if I did tie it in, it would ruin the superhero universe." So yeah, so that's another one. So let's see. So that means in a year and however long it's been, we started March. Paradigm came out. I think November, the official. Okay, July of last year is when Tilt 1 came out. September of last year, Tilt 2 came out. March, actually next weekend's the official release of Welcome to Everville #1. But we did campaign and do a Kickstarter for that one. So everyone that backed that's gotten theirs. So now we get to, we like to do parties when we release books. So
parties,
yeah. So we're going to do a party at Arkham Comics out in Rocky Mount, North Carolina. And we'll be there with the guy that was the original Michael Myers from the movies. So yeah, so he'll be there. So that'll be fun. And they put our table where you have to pass by us to get to him. So it could be super awkward. And we can watch people just try not to make eye contact with us when they don't buy our book.
What are you talking about? People are going to be like going, and I think that's kind of funny. We're talking about like con experiences with some of my previous guests is that, sometimes you get a table and can be kind of a humbling experience. I've never experienced it as being an exhibitor. I've only been as an attendee. But in some of my guest appearances, like they'll show up at a con, and maybe the guy that's beside you, maybe their or guy or girl, they have a bigger draw for whatever reason. In this case, Michael Myers, and some of them have been able to reap it. Like maybe while they're waiting, they can kind of like,
oh yeah,
is that a comfortable silence where they try not to make eye contact with you while they're waiting in line to get to the person they're trying to get to. But some people you get some of the draw from that. Sometimes some artists will get that, but then there's the other ones who the attendees are totally oblivious, and while they're waiting, they start leaning on your table. They start.
Yeah. Dude. Oh my God. So last year was our first year doing cons because we were still a baby company, and we did a few. And I'm going to be honest, in our kind of area, we had one of those conversations at the end of last year where we just said, is it even worth going to cons? We much more enjoy doing these store signings because we like getting into the shops, talking to their people, and we're good friends. We become good friends with the owners. So, I mean, we do that. And this Michael Myers one, it should be fun. I joked around that we're just going to give him a stack of the books to sell for us since people are going to be over there anyway. But yeah, I mean, it's a cool store and people have been really excited about that book too. So I think we will do fairly well. And we've heard good things about it so far. So I can't complain. I mean, we funded it, so I really can't complain at all.
Exactly. And you know what? Like I was talking about that experience is that some of the guests that I've had, and I'm sure it's the same with you, is like, yeah, that does feel kind of like weird and stuff like that. But you kind of look at it as like, hey, that's a goal. You want to be the guy on the other side who is being the draw. And I'm reading this.
The cons that we've been to, we don't have that experience. Instead, what we see is no, it's still bad. What happens is we'll be sitting there and we'll be sitting on the aisle facing the like famous comic book artists and writers, and no one's showing up at their line. And then no one's showing up over where we are, except for when, cosplayers do that running train thing that they do at every show. And, yeah, that thing. Or if they need to take a picture, they like to do it right in front of our tables and set their drinks on the edge of the table. So yeah, but we've not really had the experience where anyone around us was doing better than us. We've had, and that's not to sound cocky, because what I'm really saying is none of us were doing well. I will say though, the best part was last year was our first year at cons, and we got asked on three different occasions from people that have been doing cons for years. They were like, guys, how long have you been making comics? And how do I get a display to look a bit more like yours? And we're just like, dude, we don't know what we're doing. We're just throwing stuff at the wall and seeing what sticks.
That's a compliment. That's a high compliment.
It is. Yeah, it was a huge compliment. And it makes us feel good, because one of our big mantras for Catalyst Comics is do better, be better. And that's kind of what we hold ourselves to.
That's a nice
one of the things
positive.
that I find most impressive about you and Matt.
Oh.
don't leave it. Yeah.
Absolutely is.
It's like a hug moment, man. You got to send a virtual hug there to,
That's right.
to Joe there. So, yeah, there's definitely the cons not being a part of it anymore. It's definitely sad, but I think that's also one of the blessings too, because I would not have done Comics Cast. I wouldn't have met you guys, and I think that's all of the guests. I take away so much. I learn so much from you and from all of you, and it's just I feel like I had an inside track to like all this great creative stuff that's coming out, and that's the thing that you talked to me. Catalyst Comics isn't that old, right? I mean, it's a young company.
We just, like I said, we just put our first book out in March of last year, and we're just finally doing our LLC at the end of this year. So 2021 will be official LLC. Right now it's just a partnership, and we have a few different things going on and that are coming down the wire. So yeah, I mean, it's just constantly asking ourselves and assessing ourselves and seeing what we can change and what things we've learned and how we can grow what we're doing, even just beyond just doing comic books and things like that.
Yeah, and I think that's also one of our viewers, Justin, was talking about how fast it takes you guys to turn around stuff, and you being a relatively young, a young company. That's one of the challenges I think that independent creators or comics, when they come out, is that crowdfunding is great. It's a way to get eyes on it and to get fans to embrace your concept. Feel like they're vested and get to know the character. But it's a blessing and it's a curse too, because now that kind of puts you in a position where you gotta like, oh, I can't really, unless that's your means, that you really want to maybe put out an issue every 3 months, 4 months, maybe even a year. It's like being able to, hey, can you get to that level where your comic comes out every month, like the big box stores, type stuff? I mean, did you ever think about, hey, I would like Tilt to be a monthly issue type thing, where could you do a crowdfunding, like as soon as one crowdfunding is, let it run for a month, and like, hey, issue 3 got funded, issue 4 is ready to go, issue 4 gets funded, issue 5 is ready to go? Do you think that's what you'd like to do? Maybe. I mean, you talked about how you didn't even use crowdfunding for the first one. Right. What were your thoughts about that? Yeah,
so I mean, I think it's every creator, especially comic book creators' dream to just do it monthly. But the reality is, in indie comics, it's just it's non-existent. Yeah. And then even the big two struggle with it sometimes. Look at Doomsday Clock, for instance. That was just a hot mess of waiting. But the reality of it is you hear a lot of people that say, oh, well, we got to get to that point where we're putting out monthly. But the reality is, if people like it, they're going to wait. I mean, and they'll be willing to wait because they believe in what you're doing. And it's just a matter of growing an audience that believes in what you're doing. And that's something that we're still trying to figure out, being babies in this thing. I would dare say if we were maybe one more year into it, that there was no way we wouldn't have hit our Kickstarter goal in the first day. I honestly feel that. And it's still, we're still doing great. I can't complain. The problem is we did so great at the very beginning that then it makes you antsy to just finish the first funding so we can start doing stretch goals. So that's kind of where I'm struggling mentally, is like, dude, you did great. We'll technically have more now than any campaign at this point, because it's 3 days in. So I'm trying to learn patience on that, but I'm not a patient person. And Matt's another person too that's very much like, what's next? That's always our question is, Once we finish one thing, what's next? What's next down the pipe? What do we need to be looking at and working on, pushing toward? And sometimes it's fun to beat other people's expectations. Like when I had messaged Joe to do Tilt 3, he was like, "Man, you're about a month ahead of when I thought you were going to ask." And we were like, "Let's go for it, man."
You got to be that way. Like, what do they say? It's like in business, if you're not growing, you're dying. And it's like you got to keep those ideas in the pipeline, right?
And you got to be willing to sacrifice. And that's something that I see a lot of people lose faith in their own product. It's a sad reality that not a lot of series make it past even the first issue, and then even less make it past the second issue. For us, we went into understanding it's going to take time. We're willing to put in the time. Matt and I both work full-time jobs, so it's not like we're making bank and we're not, just living off of this. We still work full-time, and we have goals to eventually get to the point that we're going to have to. Well, not even that. Just okay. Well, the next thing would be how do we get to the point where we're making enough content that we have to go part-time, and then of course you go full-time after that. And it's a struggle, and we just that's where it comes into. Let's think about more than just comic books, because let's be serious, no one is really just doing indie comics and just crushing, like, I mean, in our realm anyway, is just crushing to the point that they can do it permanently full-time without having to do it any other way. Except for Joe, because he does so many projects and he's so freaking quick that he can actually make a full-time. Joe is pretty much what most artists dream that they could be, is actually doing what they love and are passionate about. And Joe, even, this is another thing that's about Joe, is he gets to decide if he wants to do a gig or not. That's crazy, man. Most people would kill to be able to do that.
That's what Joe is in demand.
True. It doesn't always work out.
Yeah,
but I do decide what gigs I work on and what I don't.
That's a testament, I guess, to the talent that Joe brings to the table, is that he doesn't have to. He's not a starving artist in that respect. He gets to pick his project. It's kind of like you don't have an agent now, do you, Joe? Do you have like somebody who's like I was like saying, get to that level.
Don't give him ideas.
Yeah, you get like, I was like, here's a script. I don't know about the script. I might think on it, before I give them an answer. But that is a luxury. I mean, that gets to show is that when I look at what Tilt is about, and we talked a little bit about this too, is that by Joe doing it, I guess that shows is that he feels strongly about the characters. He feels strongly about the books. That he's willing to say, hey, yeah, I can do. I mean, we saw all these other comic companies that he's done work with, and he goes, well, you know what? I see something in Tilt. I see something in Catalyst Comics, and that's the reason why I'm going to dedicate my time, because I'm going, as an artist, I feel like I'm vested in this universe, and so I think that's another testament to why Tilt works and why people should go fund it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Justin had thrown up a couple of things, and he's thrown up stuff that we talk about. I do host a podcast outside of this that's all about creating indie comics, and just I'd mentioned earlier we had Tim Seeley on it because Tim is a huge proponent of indie comic books, and I wanted to know why. So it was fun to kind of just talk to him. But Justin had brought up, the large companies have a luxury for their writers where you are exploring a character or building a story over a huge issue run, and we don't have that in indie comics. And he said that we have to hook readers and customers basically one issue released every 4 to 6 months. And that is a challenge. And honestly, most people can't do it. And I think that's why we see a lot of stuff that doesn't go past the first couple of issues. The reality is that Joe knows we have 42 stories to tell in the first story block for Catalyst. And Matt and I are all in to make sure that we can get that done, because that, for me, that's pretty much like, okay, well, I feel like I've done something now in the comic book world. I've done 42 issues to lead up to this first crossover. And I look for, one of the things that keeps me going is that moment where we get to the end of those and we have to sit down with everybody and talk about, all right, let's talk about the crossover and what it's going to do to affect all the characters that you guys have been developing and where they're going to go after this. And it is hard to character build. Justin said it's hard to character build and world build and have good action scenes within 21 pages. And I think that's why you're starting to see a good group of indie comics start going to about 48 pages per issue, and then just having a little bit longer of a gap between putting them out. And that's something that we talk about constantly. We'd like to get to the point that we can do something like that, but it is so expensive to make comic books that are 48 pages.
I know, and I think that maybe changing maybe it isn't doing it every month. I think, is it Europe? I believe that they do their comic things don't come out. Could be wrong, but I remember hearing something about how Europe doesn't do comics every month. They things like story arcs, or they do over months, which maybe that's a shifting paradigm in terms of, like, at least the way independent comics go, because you don't have huge editorial staffs, you don't have huge another talent pool. Like if your artist has to take a vacation, or you need to take a vacation, you don't have a bullpen of backup artists that can kind of do certain things. And maybe it's just the way the industry, or at least the independent scene. And the point of the matter is building the fan base. It's the quality over quantity. It's making sure that
it's like I said earlier, if people really do like it, then they'll come back to it, even if they have to wait. Look at people like
the only
Mike
thing
Barron.
I would inject is that as a freelance comic book artist, what's a vacation?
Yeah. yeah.
A vacation is any time between projects, because you're sweating every time else. And then I guess if you're like Joe, you have projects that are coming up before, when he completes one project, he has another project. So
he's got to pay the bills. And we try to be very understanding of that. And so, we have things worked out with Joe, and we try to make sure anyone that we work with, we understand that. We've had instances where our colorist, was in the hospital for a month or whatever. And he would come to us and be like, dude, I gotta figure out how I'm going to pay anything on this bill. And so we're like, dude, you've done 2 issues for us. We'll front you a little bit, and then just get the work done. That's all we ask. Just get the work done.
That's a great relationship.
Gerald, we got to be going way over time, right?
Oh, yeah. Oh, okay, it's 2:35. Let's do pencils down. I just realized that. Let me isolate that.
Heck yeah, Joe.
And I'm just totally enjoying this. So I'm listening to you guys talks, and now I get to see the drawing. Wow, look at this. Can you zoom in?
Hi, Ed.
No.
Yeah. Can you zoom in a little bit so we can see?
Yeah. 1 second.
Look at details you put in there.
God, dude.
Oh, sure.
I know.
I'll walk you through.
Oh my gosh, it's like, look at this. It's not like he did a
Cindy.
headshot or a bust shot. He did a full figure action shot. So look at this.
I wanted to show you the whip too.
Yes, that looks incredible.
This whip can also be turned into a sword. It could be turned into...
Joe's just working on a new poster right now.
That looks
could be.
Oh, yeah, this looks great. Yeah,
Joe, you have my permission to use the characters and whatever posters you want for anything.
So, okay.
This is something that I consider rough pencils. I send something like this to Aaron for approval. And if he likes the pose, great. If he likes all the details of it, great. Then I move into inks and color.
Yeah. Okay. This is where I wanted to go into. Now, this application that you're drawing in, is this Illustrator or Photoshop? What are you in right now?
This is Illustrator.
Okay. This is what I was talking about. This is the magic sauce that I was talking about. This is all vector based. So for all you design nerds or graphic design nerds, or in the industry, people.
This isn't a vector.
It isn't vector.
This drawing right here is not a vector.
Oh, I thought it was vector.
If I start inking this, the inks on top of these pencils would be the vector shape.
Oh, but this is inside Illustrator, and all of Illustrator is.
Yes, it is. In Illustrator, I have a number of different brushes that I could use. Charcoal pencil brushes. Here, check this out. I'm going to go real tight. You can see that this is a skippy, kind of scratchy line.
Yes.
Now, this is all lines. These aren't vectors. These are lines.
Oh, okay. But what the difference is that you can scale this, and it's not going to.
Yes.
You're not going to. Okay, that's the point of what I wanted to say, is that by working in Illustrator, and I think Clip Studio Paint has a similar feature depending on what brush you're using. But what it does is it allows you to. I work raster. I'm a Photoshop guy. I do traditional pencils, But when you do vector, or if you work in Illustrator, this allows you to scale unlimited. I mean, this could be something as big as you could put it on the Sistine Chapel if you wanted to, or you can put it really small in a ballpoint barrel, ballpoint pen barrel, and it would still reproduce very quickly. And this, even what he calls his sketchy line, it's still clean.
It's still clean.
I'll tell you what a dirty line looks like when we look at my stuff. But and this goes to show, just in this short amount of time, you can zoom back out. We got to see this nice fidelity in this line. But when you zoom out here and see his overall composition, this is what you can expect to see in terms of picking up tilt. I mean, great composition, great flow. Love the whip, the lightsaber whip. So very, very cool, very dynamic, and yeah. So maybe we'll see this as a poster later on, Aaron. I don't know. It could be something sort of promotional.
We let Joe, if he wants to use it for like shows and stuff, then he can always do it. He knows he can do whatever he wants with it.
So this could be a cover for a Sprocket miniseries that's a spin-off from Tilt later on. So who knows?
I would love to.
You get to see it first here. So man, I got so carried away. It's 2:38. We might have we'll not break a record in terms of like how long the show is, because I want to get to some of the good stuff. Let me just do quickly, because it's not about me. I just want to show this real quick. This was my quick to Sprocket, and I wanted to do the same thing. I wanted to do the lightsaber laser whip. I don't know what it's called, but
I love it.
I wanted to do I'm probably making sound effects in my head, and I was trying to suppress myself from making pew pew noises or totally make people oh, he's such a strange person. But anyway, this is cool. This is I love the art, I love the character, and that's one of my treats. I get to see this, and I get to do interpretations of your characters as well. So very fun. Let's go. Let me get this off the screen. So exit solo layout. Let's go to challenge number 2. Oh, actually, let me check the chat. We got Justin who's saying everything looks great. Everybody's impressed with this. And it doesn't look like anybody in the chat drew along with us, which is okay. Maybe they'll do it.
Doing?
No, it's like you should be
go get your pencils.
Exactly. And if anything, one of the fun things that I thought was really interesting is that Joe, in the interview when he did our pre-show, is that he watched last week's Let It Out, not during the live thing, but he drew along with it post-show. And I thought that was awesome to have somebody to do that. And it was a totally just fun thing to hear that maybe if people do that in the past, if you do watch one of our shows and you do artwork, it doesn't have to be during our show. You can post it to our Facebook page or send it to us in a group. We'll post it on our page. We do have an art show page too, so you can post it there. But yes, this is what you can expect from Catalyst Comics and what Joe does for them. Phenomenal character. So let's go to challenge number 2. Now this is something that was
number 2.
Number 2 was we wanted to do something fun, and we put out a vote. It was a trend of what we did last week, or the week before, with Jason Flowers. We wanted to encourage some audience participation. So we did this thing where we were going to do not just a character, we were going to do a mashup, and that was kind of a fun thing where we take a couple different characters and do our own custom interpretation of them, and we put a vote out to there. And guys, what was the consensus in terms of who we do? Let me actually put the combinations. There was Doctor Strange and Firestorm, a mashup of those two. There was Spider-Man and Nightwing, and then there was Spawn and Hellboy. I mean, you can tell that was a personal favorite once we were going through it. But I wanted to put it
I was
out
actually
there.
excited about the Spawn Hellboy mashup too.
But we put it out
if we're
there.
gonna be honest,
Yes. So I think on the Comics Cast page, what I saw was it was the Nightwing Spider-Man got the most. What did you guys get? Did you get the same thing on maybe you sharing it out?
I got the same thing, but it harkens back to what Aaron said about people just liking posts.
Yeah.
Having representing option.
I need to. This is a growing process, so it was probably my fault. I used the general thumbs up blue icon, and maybe some people said they disliked the fact that we were going to do it. They didn't know that was the actual voting mechanism that we were going to use. So in the future, I will not use the thumb and make it very implicitly clear. So that being said, we will do a mashup of Nightwing and Spider-Man for challenge number 2. We are at 2:42. We're going to push the limit in the show. We're going to definitely go over the 2-hour limit. So let's get drawing. It's 242. Let's
All right.
do
Spider-Man and
Nightwing.
Nightwing.
3. I guess we're gonna go to 3 o'clock on this. I meant as I'm drawing here, I'm gonna throw it back here to Aaron a little bit. I meant you remember. I remember you talking about how Nightwing was one of your favorite characters. So tell us a little bit why he's your favorite, and maybe how was he an inspiration for anything in Catalyst Comics, like the future of like maybe a title. So go ahead and have at it while we do this challenge.
Now, I will say, I know that they're disappointed they're not doing Spawn and Hellboy, but Spider-Man and Nightwing it's the one that I threw out there because they wanted 3 options, and the reason I threw it out is because it's my 2 favorite characters, one from DC and one from Marvel. Nightwing, I have always been a fan of. I have his first appearance with the Judas Contract hanging on my wall. I have Grayson #1 triple signed. Got Tim Seeley and yeah, man, I got the writer, the artist, and the colorist. Awesome. And I got that hanging on the other wall. And then I have Nightwing's first issues from each of his runs, and then just slews of the in-between stuff. The reason why is he's a character I've always gravitated toward because he's very sarcastic, and that's pretty much my life. I'm a very sarcastic person. It gets me in trouble constantly. I have to kind of hold it back some when we're trying to build a company. So I try to get better about that, but sometimes it just slips out, and it is what it is. But anyway, so yeah, Nightwing, the reason I gravitated toward him is the sarcasm. Also, I love the confidence that he portrays. And then I think he's a very underrated character. I mean, the dude was trained by Batman. So it's one thing to be Batman. It's another thing to be trained by Batman and to also be respected to the level that he is by Batman. I think that he is a fantastic character. He's had some really great story arcs. He had long, flowy, sexy hair when he started.
The mullet.
Yeah. And it's, they've brought back some long hair a couple of times since then, but now he's a lot more clean cut. But the acrobatics and the way they play off of his background and his story, and the way that specifically Tim Seeley got to explore more of his story because they were going to end Nightwing, and then they came up with the idea to write and do a spy storyline with him. Which I understand now after talking to Tim Seeley that originally it was going to not be a spy. It was going to be almost like almost a play off of being in Detective Comics, where he was going to be a detective. Right. But then they kind of went the other way with it and got Tom King involved, who used to be a spy for the CIA. So that's when they. Yeah, man. I just learned this when we did the podcast with him. Because I asked him, I was like, let's talk about about Grayson, and so he went through that, and it was really interesting to learn all that stuff. And Spider-Man, of course, has that same wit and sarcasm. And and so they're both very similar in some ways, of course, very different in other ways. Nightwing's much more of the wild bachelor type, and Spider-Man's a bit more grounded. But yeah, I mean, it's always been a huge influence for me. So in the Catalyst Comics universe, Paradigm, his real name is Ben, but he has a lot of the similar traits that Nightwing does. And then the ones that I kind of wanted to throw away from Paradigm is what became Tilt. I'm a big believer in processes, and my background's in writing and in English. So I'm a big believer in outlining, brainstorming, and all that kind of stuff. And so for me, what happened was I created Paradigm, and then I had this page of notes of things that wouldn't work with him, and that's what I developed Tilt off of. Going into Catalyst, the plan has always been, and has seemed to been working out, that Ben Fallow Paradigm would be a character that people maybe not right up front would realize how important he is, and that later on in the full overarching storyline of Catalyst Comics superhero universe, they'll go back and realize, oh, well, he's almost like the Batman in this universe, whereas Tilt's very much he was always created to be the loved character that everybody digs, and is like, oh, he's funny and cool, and for the ladies, he's got some nice abs. or for the guys. I'm not being discriminatory.
I was gonna say, it's like that's the real reason why you like Nightwing, right? You just think he's really he's the pinnacle of a male form there, right?
Well, it was such a fascinating way to approach him as a character, and so a lot of that had to do with that. Where it's look what they did with Nightwing was so different because let's make an acrobatic person very cool and suave and desired, and so how could we play off of that with an ex-mercenary? Because one of the things you realize when you read Tilt is that he's salt and pepper and already he's got a white and gray beard and hair, but he's really only like 35, and it's because of all the experiments and things that were done to him. And then with that mixed with that whole teenage mindset, kind of plays together. But so that's kind of the background of what spawned, no pun intended, the Nightwing feel into mostly Tilt and a little bit of Paradigm. Spider-Man was more of a direct influence on Paradigm.
Yeah, I think that it's always good to see the roots of like independent creators come on the show and they talk about, obviously it's their own IP OC, but we get to see the influences. We get to see the genesis of where they came from. And it just goes to show is that when a good character comes around, this is what I like about independent creators is that when they come on it, it's like they can be influenced by a iconic character, but they're not just ripping it off, they're growing it. It's like, and I think that's kind of like a thing that's kind of that a lot of the big companies are kind of falling into. It's sort of like they create great characters, and then all of a sudden it's like the House of Ideas kind of ran out of ideas. It's sort of like they let's just we'll do a gender swap. We'll do
exactly.
It just all feels so lazy.
It is very lazy. It's how do you get yourselves out of a writer's block jam? Oh, well, just change it. Just change the character.
Exactly, and that's what I like about like what you did. You can be completely engaged and love the character Nightwing, but you're not going to just make Tilt Nightwing with a creation beard, right?
Because in the reality, Saeed, if you did back Tilt, you're awesome. If not, you should probably just go check just to make sure. I keep telling people, watch the video. If nothing else, just watch the video, and that pretty much would just convince everybody. But the reality is you can't do anything new under the sun. Yeah. And it's something that we all fight against as creators is you can't make something new. It's how you tell that same story. Right. It's what things you can develop, and it's what things go into these characters that make them who they are. And I'm a big proponent of I really preach and harp on the message of motivation for every character. If they stand any sense of more than 2 panels in your book, then what is it that motivated them to be where they are and to become who they are? And once you understand that, you're going to be able to build a bigger world, not only a bigger world, but people are going to get a lot more invested into it. And that's one of the things we do at Catalyst. And that's just really having a background in writing and teaching and things like that. So,
yeah, I think that's also a thing that I think some traps that creators fall into is that, and that's why I enjoy that we're having a writer-artist team here, is because you can have phenomenal artists, but they're not good. They may not be good writers, or they may not be able to build that character up. But when you have that relationship where you have somebody who has an understanding of how to tell the story effectively, teamed up with somebody who can visually do that, which is what we're seeing here with Tilt, then that's where you get that's the perfect mix. That's what you want. That's the magic that happens there, because you get the combination of I'm sure that Joe has. I don't know if Joe, are you a Nightwing fan too? Do you like Nightwing?
I am. I am a fan of Nightwing. I'm a huge Batman fan. So anything related to Batman has always been, right up there in the forefront of my thoughts. Dick Grayson specifically because he was the best Robin.
Exactly, I agree with you too.
Yes.
That's what I was going to say. When you get that mutual love for a character that like you can both identify with, both got inspired by, but then create something new and still be able to pull from that. That's what creates good stories, story. You know,
I'm
you get
just fascinated. I'm
Absolutely.
sorry, Joe is losing me in his art. I'm just like, what is happening right now? Saeed, also, you're the freaking man. So Saeed back tilt.
See, we got. I think is that 2 backers that we've gotten so far on the show?
No idea.
Okay. Right. Well, this is a treat. I'm loving that too. People getting to see what Catalyst is about, and once they learn a little bit more about it, they're compelled.
Yeah, man.
I compel
Saeed,
you.
now your only job is to spread the word.
Yes, exactly.
We like to say spread the gospel of tilt.
Yes, right. That's why I use the word compelled. I compel you.
That's
to
right.
Spread the word.
Back to what you were just saying about Nightwing. Now that I'm thinking back on it, I want to say, Joe, I think one of the first conversations we had, I had brought up the Nightwing piece that you did because you had done something that was my favorite character. And I think that was an early on. I think that was an early on conversation that we had.
Oh, wow.
It may have
did
been.
you know that?
I've done a few pieces of Nightwing fan art over the years.
And I think when I said that, you said that, and then you sent me some of the other ones that you did over the years. I really think that was, I think that was a conversation we had very, very early on.
So that's a character that is near and dear to both of you, and we could say that was the catalyst. Sorry, that was a bad pun. that was something that catalyzed your relationship. I don't know. Anyway, I was just saying that is not feeling the jokes today. They're not coming out. But that's one of the things is that it's great when you can have that connection, because I think it shows.
Oh yeah,
And you're not rehashing anything. You know, you're coming up with. You can be inspired, but what you're doing is you're coming up with your own character. It's not a female version of Nightwing, or it's a version of Nightwing with instead of wearing black and blue, he's wearing red and white, type things.
For me, it's more of the when I look at those characters that I loved growing up, it's what is their motivation, and that's my springboard to create a new character. If I even care to make it. To put the thought into characters that I liked previously. For instance, Sprocket, there was no kind of influence of stuff that I used to read that played into that. It was just, I needed to create her as a character. So my first question to myself is, what is her motivation? And that's why I'm so big on that. And it's one of those things that's hard to find writers, especially now, because everyone can be a writer. And I encourage it too. I encourage people to sit down, but my first encouragement is to sit down and brainstorm. And when I say brainstorm, literally just sit down with a piece of paper, whatever pops into your brain, it goes on the piece of paper, because you don't know what's going to come out of that. And it's something that you can take and develop into something later on. And that's exactly what happened. Joe has another script of mine for a completely different style of story. It's not superhero at all. He was my first consideration for artist on it, because I first thought maybe he'd be something that he'd enjoy. And then second was, I think he wanted to do something a little bit different of a style, and I think he would nail it. And that was one of the big plays on that too, was, okay, well, finding the right artist for the job. And that's one of the reasons I enjoy having Matt as a co-owner, is he is an artist. So he can ground me when I need to be grounded and just be like, yeah, they're a good artist, but they might not work for that particular project.
Right. And that's a good thing about having partners. It's not a question of too many cooks in the kitchen. It's actually giving you maybe seeing things from a different perspective. And especially since your partner said is an artist as well, as a writer, you see certain things, but he sees things as from an art standpoint. So that's the benefit of having a really good partner that can kind of make you see things. But, I think you both agree that Joe is the man. He kind of doesn't need to.
I can't stop staring, and I keep saying because I'm just staring while he's doing stuff. I'm like, okay, now I got to get my thoughts together again.
So you've actually never seen the process? You've never seen Joe?
Not Joe's, no.
Okay, so this is a treat for you as well as our viewers here. You get to see things come from the beginning.
Yeah, well, I'm like this anyway.
Well, you've seen the inking process, haven't you?
Yeah,
I mean, we made a video together.
Yeah, and I don't. I'm not an artist, so I don't really watch it all the time. But there are times where I'll just go watch people color, like their coloring process, and that's originally I was like, oh, I might do some colorist work, and I have done some, but I just don't care to keep doing it. I would rather. things got a little bit more elevated company wise, and I had to start putting more time into that. So,
Right.
Oh, Saeed did say there's many types of writers, and he's character based, and I feel that too. I mean, the methodology behind it's still the same. It's developing a story in a different way. There are some stories where I am very character based. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Roy said he's got to join the challenge. So what are you waiting on, man?
Yeah,
Let's
we
do
were
it.
waiting for you from like challenge number 1. So yeah, please do that. Yeah, and I think that I'm trying to resist not looking at what Joe's doing. Because one, it's probably going to make me want to like put my pencil down and go, man, I give up. I gotta like.
Not at all, man. You're an incredible artist.
Well, but that's what's funny is like I work with Joe and I get his pages and all that stuff, but then you actually watch the process and you're like, man, Joe really is a good artist.
Really,
he's not just copying and pasting things from Google.
It's so funny that you say that, because there are some artists, those artists who should not be named, that are mainstream really popular artists, and it's sad because the beauty of the internet is that you basically have image references at your fingertips. It's so awesome that you can pull up literally almost anything to give you an idea of what you're trying to pull off. And that's the thing, it's an idea. It's what we were talking about before, like about ripping off something from just basically reskinning it, or redoing a popular character and just not really putting too much thought into it. And the same thing from an artist standpoint, there are artists out there that just sort of they Google it, and with the miracle of Photoshop and stuff like that, they can manipulate things, kind of trace over things. And
well, I'll be honest, I do that as a graphic designer. I can do that if I want to manipulate. It's such a completely different thing for me. If I caught an artist doing that on a book that I wrote, I would fire him. But I know that seems like pretty
thing is that as a graphic artist, it's an acceptable practice.
Exactly.
Because I worked as a graphic designer for many years, but
it's
as a graphic designer, it's expected.
Well, there's a difference though, because I also come from a graphic design background, and we have when we have to come up with concepts, our clients can't always afford a photo shoot, do things. So what you have to do is rely on stock images. Right now, and
I'm not going to spend 14 hours developing an image for you if you're paying me what you're paying me. I mean, if you're just like, here's $1 million check, then dude, I'll go hire Jim Lee to draw something real quick.
Right. Exactly. Well, the difference is that from a graphic design standpoint. 3 o'clock. Oh shoot, pencils down. All right, then Joe, I'm so glad that you're keeping track of time, because I would totally flub that. So, but let's isolate your screen real quick, and let's see what. Now I'm going to be totally. Look at this. Oh, it's just
so freaking
good, like man. Already like this. It's still rough, but I can see already like it's so much of that Spider-Man thing that we'd shown in the fan art section with the worm's eye view with this. I'm assuming that's the building. We're looking up at it. And those are the
start to them anyway.
I feel like Joe's going for like, I'm going to finish this later and it's a new art piece.
You know what? We didn't choose the Hellboy Spawn piece, but there's something I want to show you guys.
Oh, did you? Okay. Wait, before you do that,
when I was practicing all of the different mashups, I was well, there was that, there was Sprocket, but there was also this. I started doing this,
we black screened.
Joe,
did I?
Yeah, I don't know why it does that. It's like when you switch out of the app. How about you unshare and then reshare? See if that like.
Wait a second. Okay. Oh, so we're back there, right?
Right.
Yes.
So if I want to move over to the other one, it's going to go black for a second.
Okay.
But I'm just going to.
Today, technology is not cooperating.
Yeah. While he's clicking, Justin had said he truly believes that the writer and creator have to be the artist's biggest fan. And he said, if you're not in love with what your artist creates, then no one else will be either. And yes, absolutely. While you're saying this, I was messaging the co-owner, Matt, because I think he's watching too. And I was just like, dude, Joe's so freaking
Hey, Matt.
good.
Yeah, I know.
This
I think
is one of the practice things
Oh
that I
God,
did
dude.
for
That's
the
practice?
Spawn Hellboy thing.
And
Dude.
see, those of you that
I
voted, this
only
is what you
got
missed.
through this,
Uh-huh.
but
You know you're
on
gonna finish
these,
it.
yeah, I probably am.
That
I'm
looks
enjoying it.
crazy good, crazy good. Hey, could you zoom in to like the costume details of your mashup of Nightwing and Spider-Man? I'd like to.
Yeah, definitely.
Let's see this.
I did a very basic costume. It was a variation on Spider-Man's black costume with the big spider on the
Yeah.
chest. But I also wanted to do a touch of Nightwing, which was the big V's and the big points. So I gave that on the torso and the legs here.
Look at
I
the
was
anatomy.
thinking, a big contrast like black and white or red and white or blue, something like that. And of course, I gave him the Spider-Man eyes as a mask.
You know what? I would love if I know that you're a busy man, but if after the show or like if it's a month down the line, if you decide to finish any of these concepts and they look finished to me, it's like you could actually, aside from the cityscape, but the other one of Sprocket, if you just want to polish it up a little bit, I'd love to see the finished pieces here. And this is what I like about this one is because, and this is contrasting to what my art piece is that this is a typical. This is what makes Nightwing is that he's an acrobat just like Spider-Man, but they behave differently. And this is, Spider-Man, I don't think would do this kind of pose. I think maybe Miles Morales kind of did that with Into the Spider-Verse when he does that it worked with that. Yeah, but Spider-Man typically doesn't do that, or at least the way that I see him now. I'm from I remember reading I keep on mentioning Todd McFarlane. When Todd McFarlane did his run on Spider-Man, he had this thing where he wanted him to be more insect-like and do more contorted poses. But I like this one because you definitely see the the Spider-Man influence, but you also see Nightwing here too. So
I think we see more Dick Grayson than Nightwing.
Yeah.
It's the hairstyle, the big smile, and the acrobatic pose, like he's an aerialist.
Right. I love it still. I definitely see the mashup, and I think our viewers definitely see it. Let's see. Saeed basically said here, he said, I have my spin on Spider-Man, but an assassin. Interesting. Saeed, you're going to have to share that with us. But let's keep on moving because I realize we just hit the 2-hour mark and we still have to do one more drawing. But so quickly, let me show my meager attempt here. So I opted for more of the Spider-Man approach. But I did the same thing, flowing hair. I tried to merge the Spider-Man
I like
eyes
the pose.
Yeah, that pose is dope.
Thank you. But it was more about trying to I went with the more Spider-Man side of it because I don't really see. Well, you know what? I have seen Nightwing do this. Is it Scott McDaniel? When Scott McDaniel did the run on Nightwing in the 90s, I think Aaron, you can correct me too. Is that his name, Scott McDaniel?
That sounds right.
He did kind of and I remember reading that line, and that's when I really liked Nightwing as well. And maybe I was influenced by that look as well as Rick Leonardi, that style of Spider-Man. But I tried to do. He does have the batons, but you remember what is it? The newer version of the Iron Spider, and he has the extra appendages that are on the back his back. I decided, well, that's something about his batons. He can move them, but they have like spider fangs on them. Anyway, it was a cool mashup. I really enjoyed seeing your take on that, Joe. And this is one thing is that this was the challenge or the mashup that Aaron came up with. That was his original one. So this one's for you, Aaron. You got to see.
I'm very happy with myself. I've done great work here.
Exactly. You're the whole reason. Your
work is done.
Yes, in fact, we're not really drawing. It's actually Aaron who's pulling the strings behind the.
You got to read Justin's comment, man. That was for you, man.
Was it? Oh, is there a comment? I'm sorry.
For you, man.
Oh, for me. This is actually one of my favorite drawings. Oh, thank you very much, Justin. That just means that I had such a low bar before.
Okay.
Justin likes it now. So thank you so much, Justin. I appreciate it. But yeah,
you're such an artist.
Artists are. We're just never satisfied with anything we do.
I know. Again, co-owner is an artist, and we have the same stupid conversation every day.
As a writer, you're probably going, dude, you can stop now. This meets the requirements for telling my story.
Dude,
And then
I'm
Joe's
over
like,
there
"Oh,
like my problem is, okay, well, you're like for Joe, it's like, dude, it looks great. What if they hate the story?
well, and that goes to show what I think was it Justin or Saeed? I don't remember. Somebody else made some comment. They're saying that by having the artist vested in the story and believing in the writer, it translates. It's easy. Like Joe, like if you didn't love,
I think it absolutely does translate.
right? You wouldn't.
If the artist believes in the script, if he's enjoying the work, it does show up on the page. I mean, from my body of work itself, if you look at a couple of my earlier books, you don't really see that passion for it because I was pretty much early on taking any job that came my way, whether I enjoyed the script or not. Luckily, I'm at a position or a point in my career that I'm starting to pick and choose my scripts. I'm really only working with the scripts that really move me now.
Such a privilege.
There are specific writers that I really enjoy working with, Aaron being one of them. One of the first things that I told Aaron when I read the script is that I thought the script was commercially viable. It was not just commercially viable, but it pulled me in. I wanted to know more from finishing the first script, and just that translated into the artwork.
Yeah, that is what you want, and I think that maybe like I said, is I think that's kind of like sometimes you'll see comics. Again, I still love Marvel. I love DC. I'm not totally harping on them, but you often see these gargantuan like storylines that go across several different titles and titles maybe you wouldn't normally buy. But what I don't like about it is that one is that it's not an artist writer team maybe that's doing all the issues. Like maybe there's a loose storyline and then there's multiple writers and artists, so you almost don't get a unified view of the entire story. But then you can almost see I
totally agree.
You almost see gaps in it too, because maybe not every artist or writer is totally feeling it, or maybe they don't quite understand the overall gist of what the story is.
I think the big problem is you're forcing each creative team into a specific box where you're like, this is the end game has to do with this particular character. Your character that you're working on for your book is part of that particular character's universe. So this is what you need to steer everything toward. So when you put those limitations on a creative team, that's why you end up getting some of these just absolutely forgettable stories that we've seen over the last few years.
I agree. And it's like, it was almost like sometimes things are kind of phoned in. And I forgot what storyline it is. There was one particular recent storyline where it was almost like it was the same story. It's like if you'd picked up like X comic, I'm not going to name which comic it is, and then you picked up B comic, and they're in the same story thing. It's almost like they just put the characters from that particular comic title, and then there's characters, and it wasn't advancing the story. It was like almost telling the same story just from that character's perspective, and it's like, and it wasn't telling, like it didn't advance the story. It's one thing if like maybe it was the fourth wall that we were talking about, not from a comedic standpoint, but you get to see maybe that's what advanced the story because that person is jaded. Like maybe they have like things that are in him or her that's maybe causing conflict, and that would be an interesting spin of why you're telling the exact same battle just from that other person's point of view. And it's like, but if you're reading for the whole arc, then it's almost like you're just retreading it, and if it's not done with purpose, and I just popped up a thing there about that quality over quantity. If there's not really a purpose behind it, then it almost feels like it's a cash grab. It's like I'm going to have to pay more, and after I paid, I just feel like I'm just getting a rehash of the same story, but nothing.
Yeah, honestly, those big crossover events for the big two and a couple of other companies are exactly that. They're a cash grab. They'll give you 10 different variant covers, with all these different tie-ins. And some of those crossovers are even so loosely, connected to the original story that you're like, I picked this book up for a whole paragraph of connection. Why did that?
Well, it's also why in indie comics you get more of a choice on how you tell your stories, where I don't have to go 8 issues to tell a single story. Because I mean, let's be real about stuff. When most of these storylines, if they're 8 issues, you're going to get issue 1's really good, issue 2 the first half's good, And then you're not going to get really good again until the last half of 7 and 8, because that's when the final battle finally happens. That whole middle section's the forgettable part.
Yeah,
so in indie comics, it's like, well, what if I just told the full story within 4 issues and then I can move on? Because it's going to take a couple of years to get those out anyway if I'm on a decent schedule.
Well, the thing is, though, you're also you're thinking you don't have the luxury of 10 titles maybe to tell a story type thing, and you're also wondering if issue 2 really doesn't take off. I got to make sure issue 2 kicks butt, because that way people want to get issue 3. And Joe was talking about how, I think it was Cops #2, is that it had a definitive story arc, and I think that's kind of like I think Mike Mignola was a really good example with Hellboy, is that he didn't know Hellboy. I read a story about Hellboy, and it's a monster success now, but Hellboy was his independent creation, and basically he's just like you guys when he was decided to do that. And what happened is that he didn't know it was going to be blow up the way it is, and so what he did is he followed a thing where he did nice story arcs, whether they be 2 issues, 1 issue, 3 issues, 5 issues. At least they were tight storylines, because he didn't know if people would love it. And what happens is that he could maybe plant a character that he could develop later on if it took off. And what it does, it gave a nice beginning and an end to things and allowed people. And I think that's independent creator mentality. It's like you ideally want to get Tilt to issue 200, but in the meantime, let's just see from 1 to 2 and 2 to 3 and get there. And that being said,
we're talking about that. I do pretty much 4 issue arcs. And like I said, we have, in all of the Catalyst Comics superhero universe, there's 42 issues to get to the first crossover. So that's 3 Tilt arcs, 3 Paradigm arcs, 2 Silhouette arcs, and then there's 2 other characters that haven't been introduced that they have an arc together. And I do that for the specific reason of, well, if I'm going to do 4 issues in each of these arcs, then I need to introduce other villains. So I need to make shorter runs because they take longer to make indie comics. And so I want people to get involved in the universe. Like I said earlier, there's going to be people that when we get to that crossover with Paradigm, it's a slow burn story. That character himself, he's rediscovering his powers. He's kind of put them on hold for 10 years. And so that story is so different than Tilt, because with Tilt, you're just getting punched in the face pretty much right from the get-go. Yeah, and Paradigm's not that way at all. Paradigm, you're riding shotgun to discover why he chooses to become the character that he becomes. And so you're building towards something. And I think when we hit that crossover, there might be people that missed out on getting Paradigm that are going to be like, oh, well, he's way more integral to what's going on in this universe than I even realized. And that's kind of my goal. Is to get to that point where they're like, oh, well, I need to go pick up some trades or something.
Exactly. And that's what we want to do, is that when you build off characters, it's like getting that thing, is that interest. It's like, hey, you know what? Let me check out the other properties that are under Catalyst Comics. And that's what we're going to go into now. We're going to go straight into the, we're hitting the 2 hour and 12 mark. Doesn't feel that way, because I've enjoyed this completely. And it's been such a treat hearing more about Catalyst Comics, about the your individual projects as well as your projects under that banner. But let's get back into drawing the main character from Tilt, which is Tilt. So it's going to be Beefcake Express for the last 15 to 20 minutes here.
Everybody loves Beefcake too.
So you know what I'm going to do for this particular, not to put any pressure on you, Joe. This is something that I kind of did at the last Let It Out, is that I'm going to basically solo your camera out for the entire drawing, the 15 minutes or 15, 20 minutes that we're going to go. So that way people can really seeing it come out of the paper here or out of the digital, show it. So hopefully you don't feel too self-conscious, but I want people to see that. And while we're doing
no problem. I don't feel self-conscious at all, because as I'm drawing, I can't look at the screen. I'm not seeing the actual, show going on around me. I'm having a conversation with you guys over the phone.
That's okay. That's fine. So I would like, what we're going to do is that while I put that out there, that'll give Aaron a chance to see it close up. Just so like, I'm going to, again, I'll let you talk a little bit more about Tilt, maybe the future of Tilt without giving any spoilers. I don't know, you pretty much just, let it go from there. So let me solo him out, and just feel free to, it's a freestyle. You can kind of like talk a little bit, or you can just sort of say, wow, that was a great line. an even
Yeah,
better
you really
line.
you curved the crap out of that line, man.
The Bezier curve on that was just incredible.
That's right.
I'm gonna let
What's that? What's there about a 10-degree curve?
and the line weight on that, from going from 1 point to 2 points.
Yeah, it's like when guys are working on cars and the other guys are just standing around like, what's that? 10-inch sprocket?
Exactly. So anyway, for us, art nerds and design nerds or whatever, that's what we find funny. But anyway, I'm gonna leave it up to you to kind of just sort of like we're gonna just get a treat here to see it up close while I kind of struggle to figure out what I'm gonna do with Tilt. But yes, you guys go ahead and have at it. Aaron, just feel free to springboard, maybe ask some questions of Joe, of maybe some deep questions you just didn't know what to ask Joe about until you were on a live stream. Bring the awkward to the table there. So totally up to you.
I'll bring the awkward.
Aaron likes that.
Yeah. I'll bring the awkward. Also, hey guys, if in the comments, I don't know if anybody has questions, that just gives us more stuff to talk about. I'm just
and I'm sorry, I haven't been
hitting the bottom of the barrel.
Yeah, well, I'll just say I understand that too. If they comment too, I'm so happy that you're looking at it, Aaron. So if you see a question, if you want to scroll through it, if you see any questions here that need to be answered, feel free to go ahead and do it. Go ahead and address anything that's in there. But yes, just have at it. You can talk about anything. You can talk about, I don't know. I heard AM. Yeah,
it's National Taco Day.
Taco Day.
We have 3 huge things hitting today, guys, and I don't know if you know it. So I will be your guide through the next couple of seconds when I share them. Today is National Taco Day. It's also National Vodka Day, and it is Cinnamon Roll Day. These 3 beautiful things have all met together on the same day, and I think that's a highlight of 2020. If we can find a highlight, that might be the highlight.
I would have to agree. And it all came together on the same day that you guys were on Comics Cast. So
that's right.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I know I want to ask. I've never talked to Joe about a particular thing. Joe, did you use reference for Beefcake Tilt? Like, is there somebody that you?
That is a loaded question.
Well, I mean, like, is there a particular?
I use reference for most things. But like I said, it depends on the scene. If Tilt needs to be in a specific pose, I might look for a Beefcake reference for that, because really muscular men don't sit on a chair the same way that I do. So I might need reference for things like that. But
what do you mean?
Generally, as you can see from what I'm doing right now, I don't really need a reference to do a Beefcake. I'm pretty familiar with anatomy.
If you were using like if there was a particular like actor or something that you gravitated toward when you needed certain images for him.
Actually, yes. Did you guys watch True Blood?
I didn't watch it. I know it though.
Yes.
Okay. Well, there's a character on True Blood who was neither a vampire nor a werewolf nor anything special. His name was Jason, and the actor who played him, his body is what I based Tilt's body off of. It's completely ripped and muscular, and his abs look like something some woman dreamed up. And, so yeah, I'm not sure what the actor's name is, but it's his body that I based Tilt off of.
We call him Beefcake Jason. That's awesome. I didn't know that. Okay, we do have a question. So Justin asks how I approach world building and if I have a Thanos or an end goal for all the heroes and all the future heroes.
Oh, there we go. Yeah.
All right. So right now there is what has been published is Paradigm issue 1, Tilt's issue 1 and 2, and then we're funding 3 right now. And a short story, which is prose style, and it's called Silhouette Shadow Games. So no pictures. So, that's why not a lot of people buy it, because they have to actually read it. But yeah, so that's an option as well. And that really gets you into the universe that we've been working on and building. As far as an end game, I will say that there is a particular event that leads into the first crossover with all the different characters. And it's nothing intergalactic. We're not exploring space yet in the Catalyst Comics universe. No pun intended on universe.
Yeah.
But they're the main bad guys are the Council of Elders. They're that secretive organization that's just, hell bent on either exploiting these hyper evos or killing them if they have to. And there's different characters that are operating on both sides of that, or that aren't operating on either side of that. And so right now we're just kind of discovering the universe and these different characters, and again, that motivation of what made them who they are. And as it grows, you're going to start seeing some other villains kind of become created, and then some that have been around for a while. And it all kind of builds up toward this massive crossover event. So you've seen Silhouette, you've seen Paradigm, you've seen Tilt, and there's two other characters that are in the main superhero universe called Shift and Sage, and they're going to have a book together, and they are New Orleans based, and it's a more urban style story. But that's a fun one as well. I do not plan to do all the writing permanently because this is a company, so we have a few different things that we plan on doing. We do have a writer for Silhouette's solo series. We just have to get to the point where that series is running congruent to our current story. Because the first time you'll see Silhouette is going to be in Paradigm's story arc. His second story arc is with her, and then she'll have her own solo series after that. So in that event, we're building these teams. Joe was part of the first team. I guess you could count Matt and I as a team, but we own the company, so it's whatever. But Joe's the first non-Catalyst Comics studio co-owner that we brought in, and then Ramon on colors for Tilt, and they've been around for the two. The two. I'm sorry, I'm still staring at Joe's art. The two Tilt stories so far, and then 3. Joe's finished with 3. The coloring's almost done, and I was lettering before this, and then I forgot to save it, so I got to reletter one of the pages. But it is what it is. So world building wise, yeah, I just kind of have fun with it. I have this kind of overarching thing that I want to happen, and so it's just kind of building these characters up to that point. Once we hit that point, then for me, the big thing is what's the fallout? How does this event affect each of the characters? Where do I want them to be at the end of this crossover? And so, yeah, I've told Joe I have these 42 issues. I've shown him the outline. We post the outline every time we publish something because I can just, cross it out and show him like, hey, we're moving toward our goal. But I do have another outline after that, and that's for all those story arcs, and they're so built up and ready to be produced as well. It's just money.
Well, yeah, but it's staying hungry too. It's like that hunger to get that work, get that next big thing. Because yes, it is a money thing. It's a reality thing. But I think that's I'm going to say some of my favorite artists. I find that Jim Lee, for example, I thought Jim Lee's stuff when he was up and coming, I think that's some of his best work. And I think that for you guys as independents, it's like you're always hungry, right? You're always looking for that thing. You're always thinking about that next project. And you were talking about delegating sort of things like, that you can't write everything. You can't do everything. It's being able to because that's part of growth, right? It's being able to know your limits, know when you want, if you can get the outline, like you said, getting the outline down, knowing there's a game plan. I think that's what you see is that when there is no game plan, it shows in some properties. It's like things don't add up together, and I think that's what you're bringing to the table, right?
Yeah, I mean, it kind of ties in a little bit to what Justin had asked another question about if there's rules that all the heroes have to follow in the universe. His example was Batman and Superman are night and day as far as their physical powers. So yeah, I mean, with us not doing cosmic stuff, the understanding is that there's a thing in our universe called hyper-evolution, and it's just something that's come about where people are evolving and starting to develop superpowers. And it's been going on in small packets for a while, but now in modern day, it's really starting to take off. And that's most everything that we've done in the Catalyst Comics universe is set in the present day. There is a short story that I'm trying to get out. If we did fun today, then everybody's going to get it for free, and it's not even released yet, but it's called Fire by Night, and it's a medieval superhero story that's set in the Catalyst Comics universe. And then I have another one that I'm about 2,000 to 3,000 words into, and that's going to be a Western in the late 1700s. And that's another superhero style story. But I do this prose because, I'm waiting on books to get done, and I still want to bring something to the table. So a couple of things that I do is I do all of our graphic design. So even like the covers, like I do all the text work and all that stuff once I get the images. And then like all of our banners and stuff like that I put together, and I do some more of that stuff on the side. And then the other thing I do is I work on these short stories. And there are other books that Catalyst Comics is putting out. It's under the Uprising imprint. And basically the point of that imprint is to have anything that's outside of the superhero universe published. And we've done the Welcome to Everville's the first one. That's a horror book. I guess it's horror. I don't know. Joe can give a more apt description of what the style is, because I guess it's dark fantasy would probably be more.
Dark fantasy is exactly what I was going to say.
Yeah. We play on some horror elements, but once you read it, you realize there's something bigger going on, and it's more in the dark fantasy style. But yeah, so that's happening. I have a space epic that's being worked on by a fantastic artist. I'm not going to name drop him because the book's not ready yet, but he's someone I've wanted to work with for a while, and it's fun to see that start coming about. And then our social media manager, Kat, we did this really dumb thing where we hired her as a social media manager, but she's also an artist and illustrator. So then we hired her to do a book, and she doesn't have time to do social media management anymore. So now I'm back to doing that all the time. But that is going to be it's a trope-ish version of like Dungeons and Dragons, and it's going to be a fantasy, like a high fantasy. And that's called A Bard's Tale, and that'll be coming out next year at some point. And the other one, the space epic, is called Afterglow. That'll come out next year. Now it's getting to the point in the company where we're trying to figure out how to schedule releases. Because you had mentioned earlier, have you thought about if you finish one book, just jumping on Kickstarter and doing the next one? Well, Kickstarter doesn't allow that. They do limit you. You have to deliver the books before you can start the next one.
I guess that makes sense.
There was a whole scandal controversy thing over an indie creator who didn't. He had like 5 different campaigns running all at once. Yeah, and then didn't
some of that's still going on.
Fulfilling them.
Yeah, and it was happening a lot in the tech industry as well. There are a lot of like prototypes coming out. People would back them for millions of dollars, and then you'd never see the product.
I totally sympathize with that.
Yeah, so for me, and I didn't even realize that they had done that until I went to do the pre-launch page for Tilt, because we had just finished Welcome to Everville, but I hadn't gone in there and clicked that we had sent everything out. And so once I tried to start the Tilt page, it was like, no, you can't do that yet. So I had to go in there and make sure everything had gotten sent out and click all that. And then it let us start the page. But luckily, if you guys know Catalyst, we always come through on our stuff. We try to learn from any mistakes that we do make. I will say one of the mistakes we did make was we released Tilt 2, but I forgot to put the thank you page in there. So that's pretty lame. So now I'm going to have 2 thank you pages in issue 3. One of them's for issue 2. So, but yeah, I mean, and guys, if you love what you're seeing, by the way, we do have a package where you can get drawn into issue 4 getting beat up. Joe will draw you right in there. Let them break some bones.
Well, you said you can have your face or your character being beat up by Tilt. Is that?
Yes.
Did I hear that right?
Yeah. There are 6 spots. There's only 4 left. But yeah, you would be getting beat up by Tilt himself.
That is I've never heard of that kind of stretch goal or a tier. So that is unique. I've never heard of that. But you know what? You're talking about that whole thank you thing. What matters is that I think that's independence. They appreciate their backers, Yeah, and even absolutely. if it was not put in there in the first one, you made sure that you put it in the second issue, and that just goes to show that there is a deep appreciation for people that believe in you and help see your product come to fruition. And I think that's the belief. That's what I want the naive view, I guess, because I've been burned before too. I mean, I remember supporting a product that was going to be, you're talking about tech. There was like the a product that was supposed to be the next Apple Pencil before the Apple Pencil was even invented, and that goes to show how many generations of the Apple Pencil have been around.
Yeah,
and I'm still
absolutely.
waiting on my product. I mean, the guy just stole my money, and that's it, unfortunately. And that's so disheartening because
It is,
you know, when
it
you
affects all of us,
Yes.
especially in the comic book world. I mean, I'll be honest. There's a couple of things. One of them that always comes to our mind when people bring up Kickstarter is there's one that Matt and I helped fund back in 2018. It was when we launched Paradigm, actually, on Kickstarter. It was the first thing we ever did. We were running the same time as these other gentlemen, and their book still not delivered,
not done. Yes.
Yeah, and it's one of those situations where the artist is kind of known. So he started doing a book for one of the bigger companies. And of course, this thing just gets pulled off to the side. But, they made like 25 grand off of it. And it's aggravating. But the problem is now you have to sit here and try to tell people, hey, we won't do that with our book. But you have to like earn trust that somebody else lost. And it's aggravating, but if anyone has bought anything from Catalyst before, we always come through with our stuff. And sometimes we do more than we should just because we're scared we're going to screw something up. We did have a couple of questions. Justin, so the package to get drawn, getting beat up by Tilt himself it's 150. And you don't just get drawn into issue 4. You also get both covers. You get the wristband, an enamel pin, a T-shirt, a 3-pack of the trading card that has each of his suits, and then you'll get PDFs of everything that Catalyst has put out. So that's a big one. If it does really sound like something you want to do, I'm just saying we're getting close to funding, and I'm not going to stop you. And yeah, I had a couple other things. I'm trying not to lose track. So yeah, and there's another package too. If you love what Joe does, which if you don't, then you probably just don't like art. But if you do love what Joe does, we do have it's called the Joe Mission tier, and you can get a commission from Tilt illustrator Joe DeSantos himself, and it's almost like a pay raise for Joe because we give him a cut off of that. And then you also get all that other stuff I mentioned, where you get both copies of Tilt's covers. I didn't even send you the one that has like the villains cover, the T-shirt, enamel print, mini print, and the 3-pack, and then all of our books as well. So that's $120 if you want an original commission. And I think, Joe, you're even willing to do original characters as well, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Original character, kind of my bread and butter, man.
Yeah. So help him bread and butter.
Exactly. He needs more. He needs more bread. Needs more butter. Right? Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So, and Saeed said he's putting Catalyst Comics on his pull list. Hey, if you guys do go to stores and they do support indie comics, let them know. First off, that we do have retailer packs on our Kickstarter. But other than that, they can always reach out to us. Matt and I absolutely love talking to shops and getting to know, the people that put these books out. And so if they are supportive of indie comics, then let them know about us. If they're not supportive of indie comics, then to find a different store.
They're missing out.
The views and opinions expressed on comments. Justin did say he wanted to. Saeed asked if Catalyst has a distribution deal. We don't. I mean, we do it ourselves. There are specific stores. I'd mentioned yesterday that there's a specific store that's always like getting our variants, especially for Tilt. They get store exclusives. The one that we're doing for theirs for issue 3 is a playoff of Punisher's first appearance, and it'll be Talon and Tilt instead of Spider-Man and Punisher. Justin wanted to try Kickstarter, but he's timid on where to begin. So I don't want to get in trouble for doing this, but I'm just saying it's literally the point of our Beards and Comics podcast is just a whole bunch of people that have dealt with Kickstarter, and you can learn from Matt and my mistakes because we do make mistakes and we're very open and talk about them. So if you are trying to like figure out how Kickstarter works and how to approach it, I would probably recommend that.
And that's, the fact that you mentioned that, see, this is what I've learned from my interactions with my guests and guests on the ART, the Artist Roundtable, is the fact that you're doing that. It's the network. It's the reason everybody I mean, the majority of the people that I see that are on crowdfunding or independent comic scene is they're willing to help each other, right? Just being able to share that knowledge. You bring your experience. You did your first issue without using crowdfunding. But then when you are using crowdfunding, you're willing to share that with people. And you think that it would be more cutthroat. It's like people are saying, well, you know what? I want my book to be better, so I'm not going to share any of that information with anybody. But I find that not to be the case with independent creators.
We get really excited when people do well. And I will say there are those instances where you feel like you do something in the indie comic world and it rubs people the wrong way. Because for us, one of the things we noticed is because we're still so new and we are putting out, first off, in issue 3, but this is still the 5th publication in a year and a half that we're putting out. We've noticed that thing where like, come along, little puppy, like we'll help you out. And then like, once you start kind of doing okay, then they're like, it gets weird.
I get,
We are not that way because we understand. I mean, we totally understand. And you had Ryan Shemek on here.
Yes.
And he's our poster child pretty much for Beards and Comics. That's how he got into everything and learned about it, was he listened to our podcast. And
he needs to get a beard. He needs to get a beard.
Yeah, I know, right? Well, only so much you can do in the military, but but yeah, so we talk about him a lot. We celebrated with him so much because for him to do what he did on his first Kickstarter campaign is almost unheard of in the indie comic book world. Where he did 130 something backers and over $3,000, which he had more backers than we've ever even had. So we celebrate that. In fact, we just turned around and did 2 episodes with him. His second one comes out Thursday because we were like, dude, tell everyone, because you are what people should be looking at when they get into this stuff. So tell everyone what you did. We don't want to hold anything back. And we also believe in sharing our failures because people might learn something from it. And the reality was we started the podcast just because when we got into everything, we had no idea where to start. We had no idea who to talk to, who to look at. And then we started that because we did start finding our own way. We're still learning. I mean, God, we're still not even funded. So you can't look at us and be like, well, they're the most successful. We don't know what we're doing. We just throw stuff at the wall and see what sticks and move on.
The operative word is
but you're persistent.
It's
man.
yet. It's going to happen.
Absolutely should give yourself that credit. You and Matt are very persistent in your effort.
Yeah, thanks, and I like how, like I said, it's being able to share those experiences, being able to, because it's like when an independent comic or creation is successful. We were talking about how the damage that's being done by people that take advantage of crowdfunding and how it can put a bitter taste in people's mouths and maybe they don't want to like do things. But every time there's success, when you can share that experience, that knowledge, it's a win for everybody, because it's like you said, that trust is easier to accept, when you're doing your crowdfunding, right? There's going to be less of that because they know that it's been proven. And that's one thing I also look, you look at the breadth of your catalog, just how many different titles you have. And this is not issue 1 of Tilt. This is issue 3. 1 and 2 have been out there already. And it's built enough up. So that is, again, testament to a good product. And it's just getting that so that people will not, getting past that whole Todd McFarlane thing is where, no one cares about your independent creation because they don't know. So let's getting them to know it, and it'll just snowball, and people will identify with it. They'll want to buy it, and like I said, it'll go from issue 3 to, like you said, you only do like self-contained arcs, so maybe it won't be issue 200, but maybe it'll be volume 10 of Tilt, and it'll be its 10th story arc. That would be a win-win situation, right?
That would be the goal. Okay, I want to make sure I hit all the stuff.
I think I timed out.
Yeah, you definitely timed out on the drawing. I'm making sure that I at least addressed your comments.
Oh, I stopped like 5 minutes ago.
Oh, you did? Okay. Okay. You know what? We are at 3:41. So I don't know. Are you feel like a good pencils down? Do you think this is a good pencils down? Because I think I've let Aaron, like, his mouth is probably getting dry now from like, because he's been so gracious as a guest, because that allowed me to kind of like do some artwork while I'm in here. But I enjoyed hearing him talk, so it was nice to hear that story. The stories that he brought to the table. But yes, let's do pencils down, because I know that you probably have other things you want to do this Sunday. But look at this here. We have this soloed out right now. Can you zoom in a little bit? Let's get a
sure.
Joe. Yeah, let's
show us the abs, Joe. Show us the abs.
You want to see where's the beef, right?
Yes, I'm abs.
Yeah.
And look at that. I
didn't get very far in this one. I was kind of concentrating on the face,
Joe.
And
he did not get very far.
Just had a FaceTime.
Yeah. I mean, it wasn't like Sprocket, where it was a whole thing. But when I'm looking at this, I can see in here, you're already defining where the shadows would be, because you didn't have to go into so many details. Right. But I noticed how you block things out here. So I'm already seeing. I can see the depth already. It's a flat line art drawing, but to me, I'm already seeing a dimension. It has a very three-dimensional quality to it already. So I already see the process. But yeah, can you zoom into his face? Let's look a little bit more about some of those details that you put in there. But yeah, so to all of our beefcake fans, you definitely got a load of beefcake, for this particular.
That was a weird way to say that. That was bringing the awkward. Good job, man.
Sorry, I didn't mean it that way. I was saying that, hey, we are focusing on superhero art.
So good.
Yeah, but yes, look at this. And I like, this is what's different about this expression. He looks more determined. We had that sequential that you had shown where he's doing selfies, and you see that lighter side of this character. But here he looks like a little bit like, you just ticked me off.
Generally when Tilt's in uniform, someone's gonna get hurt.
Yeah, I mean, basically, if you see Tilt in his uniform, somebody messed with him.
What's that?
Basically, when you see him in his uniform, somebody messed with him.
Oh, okay. So it's like he definitely assumes the alter ego. When he puts on the costume, he's like all business, right? It's pretty much like
for sure.
The lightheartedness, I guess the Billy Batson, like I'm kind of like a teenager. He becomes all full on superhero merc.
Well, one of the inspirations I took from Spider-Man was one of my favorite things about him is when he's fighting, he'll still give commentary. And so I do that with Tilt too, where he's talking to the audience when he's fighting people.
Yeah. This is phenomenal. I'm so, I'm glad I didn't look up earlier, because then I would have been totally just fanboying too, and sort of oh, very cool, and then to stop drawing. So I know that this has become another marathon here. We were at 2 hours and 41 minutes. So I'm going to quickly show mine, and then we're going to go into our final thoughts part of it. So hold on one moment, and let me get to that. So I tried really hard to live up to the whole the established shots that we had done that you had shown for Tilt, and I didn't try.
Oh, it's the white costume.
Yes, and
yeah.
I didn't
muscles.
Right, I wanted to focus on that. I'm not as good at anatomy as Joe. I need to go back to my anatomy books and learn those correct muscle placement type things. But I've been so used to doing these action poses, and it was kind of nice to just do a deep introspective thing. He's kind of saying, "Hey, check out me," type thing.
Here I am, y'all.
Here I am. It's you like that, type stuff. But it was fun. I'm a fan now. I mean, I'm definitely getting to hear more about Tilt and just the story of Catalyst Comics and Joe too, in terms of his experience and what he's done. So happy to have you guys on the show. So I don't think anybody. I'm looking through the chat now. It doesn't look like
you got loads of comments.
Yeah, but there wasn't anybody here that drew along with us, which I was hoping.
They just wanted to listen to me talk.
Aaron, I thank you so much. I was listening too. I was like, wait a minute, am I on the your podcast?
I can't help it, dude. I can't help it.
No.
When people ask that stuff, it's just I understand what it's like to not know what to do. And I still don't know what I'm doing most of the time, but the difference is I make an effort.
No, it's not even that you make an effort. To me, which it is that you make an effort, but I'm saying that it's something so genuine and sincere and honest when you can talk about, hey, you know what, it wasn't perfect. When I talk, this is my impression of my guests, and particularly you guys, is that it's the level of humility that you bring to the table. And I think that there is no ego when it comes in here, and you're willing to share your knowledge, you're willing to share your creativity and your creations, and there's nothing that comes with it except for the love and wanting people to see what we're doing and sharing that with everybody. There's no attachments, there's no like preconditions, there's no like, oh, gimmicks, like you got to do all this stuff, and maybe you can get in the inner circle and I can tell you a little bit more about what we're doing, stuff like that. And that's why it's been a pleasure to have you on my show, because I think that the art, seeing your connection to each other, and it just translates. We see that, and I can only say I encourage people. Let me pull up the Kickstarter. Let's go through that really quick, and then we'll do our final thoughts. So Joe, did you want to say anything? I know that you were busy like totally drawing and showing off that really cool artwork. So I wanted to if you have any thoughts that you want to add, or I don't know.
A couple of thoughts. One of my favorite companies to work for is Catalyst, and it has a lot to do with the things that you said just now. That Aaron and Matt, regardless of what successes they have, they stay humble, and they keep saying that, we're figuring this out as we go along, but you're making great decisions. And not only do I enjoy your scripts, but the company itself, what you're doing, it's impressive. That's why I really enjoy working with Aaron specifically. His scripting is phenomenal. It elevates the whole thing. Other than that, I do want to give a shout out to one person in particular.
Okay, do it.
As we were doing the show, as I was drawing tilts just now, I got an IM from my sister informing me that I am a new uncle. I have a new nephew.
Oh,
congratulations!
So, yes, I think I have something to do with the rest of my afternoon.
Yeah, definitely, man. Congrats, man.
You can. I heard the beep go off there, and I was like, oh, I hope it's a really important message, and it was. And I'm just gonna go through this page real quick, because I know you got family things. The question is, you got to ask your sister. It's like, what is his name, or is it a he or a she? Is it a niece or a nephew? He. So
it's a nephew.
A nephew. So it's. Oh,
I don't know yet. I'm gonna find out.
What are you gonna name him? Is he gonna have his middle name will be Tilt?
That's right.
So anyway, or you can come up.
Well, he's half Irish, so maybe I Tilt.
Dude,
exactly.
His last name, man.
There you go. So I'm gonna go through these really quickly. There's I see some swag here. So it's not just the book. We got shirts. We got cards. As I'm scrolling through, just tell me when to stop, and let's go ahead and go. Actually, let's go through here, the reward section here. So go ahead and just briefly, we'll just go through this. Is there anything you want to talk about as I'm going through these?
Yeah, so that's the variant cover that Matt did. This is the first time we've ever done like a variant cover in our Kickstarter. We wanted to do something that was more villain based. So this is Talon in his full suit with the mask and everything. One of the playful things we did with him is, if you look at the logo on his forehead, it's almost like a perversion of Tilt's logo. It's kind of like a cross, but it has little fang things on it. But yeah, so we got playful with him. So that's that variant cover. And by the way, we are beta testers on the add-on feature that Kickstarter is starting. So if anyone does just want to back it and then throw in extra stuff, it gives you another screen where you can just get a copy of any extra stuff that you want. So it's pretty cool to be a part of that, rather than you having to do a bunch of math and figure out how much to add to your tiers.
Anything to make it easier, so you can get more swag, right?
It's we're super money.
Exactly. We're super grateful that you had to apply for Kickstarter to allow you to do it, and so we're grateful that Kickstarter selected us to be able to run that.
Right.
So this is just copies of our books. Those are the 3 tilts. Then right below that, those are all of the titles currently in the superhero universe. Then the one below that is all the titles, because Welcome to Everville is not part of the superheroes. But if you're into horror, you can even get a physical copy of that book in this campaign if you want it. That's in the add-ons as well.
It's something for everybody. It's an expansive catalog that's at Catalyst Comics here.
Yep.
So here we have the comic, not comic related, but the T-shirts and posters,
Yep.
trading cards. Yeah, so
Yeah, got to have all the swag, man. We did the trading cards. We got playful with that. That's the new style. This is the first time we're doing trading cards for the superheroes. So what we did was we took one of each of his suits for this campaign, and you can get all three of those, or you can just get the main one if you want it. The T-shirt, because everyone likes T-shirts. Mini prints, because some people dig those. We still bounce back and forth whether we want to keep doing them or not. People keep asking us to. The wristband, if you want to support Catalyst, that's a fun way to do it. It has our main mantra for Catalyst is read outside the box. And then Catalyst is on the other side. And enamel pins, because they're so hot right now.
I know people, it's like, what do they joke around about? Remember those restaurants like Applebee's and stuff like that? It's all about having, I forgot
the flair.
Yes, having pins. And like, when cons do return, because they will, we're going to get through this whole 2020. 2020 has been kind of crazy, and cons will return. I think mini prints will actually become very popular. I mean, people are requesting it, but those are big things at cons, these little things like that, because people want to, and you know what? It's nothing like having a walking billboard for you, to talk about.
For sure.
And fans eat this up. People don't want, and I think that that's something to put on their jackets, their backpacks. Go walking around the cons, and it's like cool logo. I see your graphic design sensibility shining through there, and the phenomenal artwork, and seeing these cards. I mean, you as an entrepreneur, as an independent creator, you got to find the ways to to get your product out there, and these are very slick merchandise. Encourage people to check that out. And this is what we were talking about before, which is this could be you. Yeah. So this is something cool that you could check out. And this is the add-on. So this is the prototype, or that Kickstarter is doing. So that's the campaign. So it's very easy to add on these particular swag items.
We had to. The approval came in the night before we launched, so I had to go in there and change up the description of it. Typically, what you would have to do is put whatever reward tier you wanted, and then figure out what price you want for the add-on, and then add that to your tier. When all this is taken away, so really just that picture just shows you the things that are available. Once you pick a tier and you click on continue, it comes up with a secondary list. And you can add anything off of that big list on it. It's easier than ever before.
And they can add on. They don't have to add on just yet, but like just before the campaign ends. They add on.
I think you can go back in and add on anytime, because you can adjust your pledge tier.
Yeah, even at the end, like once it's even concluded, you can still add on too, right? I think that's.
I don't. No, they're not doing that yet. Indiegogo, I know you can still do it, where it turns into a store after. Kickstarter keeps asking if they should do it, so we may see it. And other than that, I do always throw that why indie section in there. That's going to be kind of toward the bottom. So I put that in there because I really think people need to understand why indie comics crowdfund. A lot of people are like, "Isn't it begging for money?" It's not until maybe the last week, then we start begging. But honestly, this, for people like Matt and I that aren't doing this full time, this is how we fund these projects. And the goal was to get to the point where we got one of these funded enough that it flipped the company so that it's paying for the next book rather than paying just for that single book. And we did that with the last campaign. So we were able to go ahead and pay Joe out for Tilt 3. So then everything we're getting off of this campaign, the hope is we can go ahead and pay to get Tilt 4 done, and then look at getting the trade made. That should be the goal. And I don't know, that's some insider baseball for people that are thinking about approaching the company aspect of it, is you want to get to that point where it flips. One of the ways you can't do that is if you're trying to live off of the money you get on Kickstarter, because it's not going to happen.
Well, until Netflix sees this comics cast.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's not going to happen on your first book or anything like that.
Right, but we want to think positively here too, because I think that's the nature of independence. We talked about the hunger.
Right.
It's the hunger to get things out there and stuff like that. But yeah, it's just you got to get things going, and you got to get things out there in terms of like building that fan base, so that way it's you have to put the money in, right? The money goes in to make it. So I'm sorry, I just got a message here that and I got a little carried away again. Joe had to bail because he's an uncle now. So final thoughts here. I'm going to go ahead. We went through these independent creators, why indie, and let me close this out, and we're going to just go into get this, and we're just going to go into final thoughts here. So I know you've talked a lot of different things here, and it's been a great story to hear about where Catalyst is, where they're going, just your relationship with your artists, your team, and how your team even has new roles. Like you talked about, was it Kat that you said that who you hired for one thing, and you found out she's a great artist, and then and now you have another book that you're coming out of there. So these are not necessarily like setback things. There are things that actually grow your company, and you have talents that you can put into position where it'll make you guys even better and stronger and things like that. So I'm so happy that we were able to push your product a little bit, and we got looks like we got at least a couple backers during the show. And I'm going to do my best to make sure that we get you over that crowdfunding goal. And it's going to go on until when? When is it?
So we did a 28. We again, because we always break rules. We did a 28-day campaign, because we're starting to get to the point where it's like, well, why don't we just get in and out? Eventually, we may go to a three-week campaign. But this one we did 28 days. So we have 25 days. We're still in day 3. So I can't complain at all, because this is the first time we've done 1,000 within the first few days. So I can't complain at all. It's going great. You just get antsy when you do so well so fast, and you're just like, I just want to go ahead and get the funding part done so everyone can start getting cool extra stuff after.
I understand.
We're big on stretch goals, and we have some really cool ones planned for after we fund, and I think people really dig it. So make sure people
stay tuned, because spread the word so that we can see the special stretch goals that Aaron is talking about, because I'd like to see what kind of crazy ideas that you guys come up with. And I'm going to say thank you to Joe offline, because he's gone now, but hopefully he'll watch the rest of this. And he's a uncle now, and we'll see what that name of that new baby boy is. Maybe it will be related
Patrick.
to Patrick. Patrick. It's going to be Patrick. Thank you for being on the show. Before I close out, though, we do this with all of our things, that we do a plug for our charity partners. So if you I want to take a little moment here to just to talk a little bit about them. And let's go share this. And this is Golden Fight, and they're our partner, and we definitely are looking for ways to help get the awareness out about them. They're a wonderful charity, and what they are about is helping families who have children that are dealing with very challenging illnesses, just like cancer. And inevitably, when that happens, financial difficulties will occur, and that's where Golden Fight comes in. Golden Fight is an organization I like to call big enough but small enough. Big enough in the sense, or small enough in the sense that they're not nationwide. They have a very tight, focused area that they deal with. They focus within in my neck of the woods, which is the DC, Virginia, Delaware, Maryland area. They meet the families. They know who they are. They are actually almost extended families of the families that they're helping out. And that's the small enough part. The big enough part is that they have big hearts, big hearts. And the big component is that when they raise money, if people choose to contribute to them, 98% of it goes directly to the family. They are primarily completely volunteer leadership program, in the sense that the leadership volunteers. It's their time, and I think because they've dealt with children who've gone, they may have personal children that have gone through. I think that was the story, and so they know what these kids go through and families go through. So that 2-3% just goes for very little, like nominal administrative stuff. So 97% goes to helping those families. So it's something that if you have a chance, you can go check out. Hold on one second. Get the banners here. And check out our charity partner, goldenfight.org. And it's a great organization. If you have the ability and you want to find some charitable organization to look into, this would be it. So thank you very much for checking that out. So let me remove that. And for our final, I want to show, again, check out these links here at the bottom. Check out the crowdfunding campaign at Kickstarter. Aaron, the Count of Monte Cristo. We're hitting. We've gotten to like almost 3 hours. That goes to show that the show goes on like this. That just means that we had such good content. I could probably have you on here for another 3 hours if you did if you didn't have a sister who was going to have a baby. Please relay my gratitude to Joe when you talk to him. I'm going to reach out to him afterwards and tell him thank you as well. But you are a phenomenal guest. I wish you nothing but success because, like I said, it's so great to see the honesty, sincerity. It's like you have such a positive vibe, and I want people to experience the creations that you guys are putting together. So support Tilt. Issue 1, 2, and 3. 3 is out there. Thank you. And this has been another episode of Let It Out with Catalyst Comics. So thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.
Signing out. Thank you. Keep on drawing. Bye-bye.
Yeah.